personal phone. Back in the day, paper, paper was awesome. Oh yeah.
Hold on, somebody wants to get a hold of me.
Remember the first one at spring?
No.
Actually, that was the Blackberry. Oh yeah. Yeah, the only thing I did was show the number.
Grab something. Grab a seat.
I was chatting with Sheila.
This morning,
Oh, I get it.
Somewhere down there.
So each one had a half.
hold on a second. Beep, beep,
Yeah,
beep.
you were right there.
I think I had to go to the record.
Somebody.
911. Oh, hold on. I'll be right back.
Felt important. I hadn't.
But we had to use the regular phone. Actually, for a little while, we had the brick one.
Oh, yeah, the brick one.
With the case in the car, and like you can have the big antenna, really thick like this.
Yeah. Kids these days have no idea.
It was just the phone. It wasn't even a. No. What about texting? How to use like the numbers for letters?
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, I don't care about the situation. I care more about
Oh, you still have that property? You know, you hear about like speed and you hear about that? Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's get started.
It's a pleasure.
You know,
All right, welcome everyone.
Can you lower your stool? I'm not so sure. Thank you.
Going down. Teamwork, right? Awesome, awesome. We got it.
We're fine.
Everything's cool.
So I want to welcome you guys for doing a how to build a team panel. Hopefully you brought some questions and things that have been running through your mind on what you can do or how you can get started, or if you have a team, what you can do for the next step, because you've got a wide variety of how in this group. So for those of you that are online, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. Shane will tell me what it is when it comes to question and answer time. And we're gonna get started and actually talk with them about some things about their business, and then I'll open it up for questions and answers after. Okay. So let's start with these two guys right here. So a little introduction. Who are you guys?
We're Dutko-Ragen. Yep, Dutko-Ragen of
Short didn't necessarily need to shoot you.
Dutko-Ragen of Investments. We're at a KW Falls Church. Happy beer.
Awesome. Thank you.
John Martinich and Andrea Vaccarelli with Level Up Homes, Pearson Smith Realty. I'll let her do the talking. She likes to do that. She's
Very good.
And I'm Tracey Barrett with Century 21 Redwood Realty, and I am the team lead for the Focus on Network Real Estate team.
Fantastic. Awesome. So you're going to see today that these three teams actually run completely different. There aren't too many things about them that are the same, but they all have really amazing things that they do. So you'll get a different perspective from each one of them. So how long have you guys been in real estate, and what made you build a team?
Sean got in 2007. I got in 2008. We decided to build a team after we tried on our own for about 2 years. That did really well, really rocky. And then I had my son actually realize like there's no balance, and I wanted to be a good dad. So that was kind of like the first full-time hire at that point.
Yeah, I think when you realize you can't be at two places at once, and nor do you want to, and you don't want to work 80 hours a week anymore, that was really the impetus of growing the team.
Yeah. Anybody else feel that way out there? Yeah, 100%. Like they're like us too. John, Andrea, what about you guys?
Let's see, both 2016 is where we both got licensed, and we've been in well, I guess official for over a year now, quasi close to it as a team. Similar idea, like I started off dual career, and it kind of very slow progress, but then it was slow and consistent. Everything was building. I think when I hit a certain production level, I realized same thing. I can't be hustling all over the DMV, showing houses, negotiating contracts, seeing my children, all of these things. I can't be in all these places at the same time. Like, how do I do this? So we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think for me, like it wasn't fun anymore, and it became like a lonely business. So the collaboration I missed, and like feeding off of people's energy, and so I wanted to bring back why I started it in the first place. And like my feedback on this says, like I would go on vacation and I was never present with the kids, and then when we partnered, I had one vacation and I left my phone at the house, which never happens, for like 6 hours. And I actually didn't care. And I literally like brought me to like, this will work, this will do. But it's also so fun just being around people. And that's the reason why we wanted to start building. We started as partners, but we didn't start bringing people on until Q4 of last year.
Yeah. It is a lonely business when you're a solo agent. It's a very lonely business.
For the last 2 years, especially with COVID. Yeah.
Without a doubt. Tracy.
I've been licensed since 2011, and I started as a team because I was recruited into this business by my mother-in-law, who had practiced for now going on 45 years. She's epic and was always a top agent, thought I'd be good at it. So she brought me into it. So I've never not known team as a total solo agent, and in full disclosure, because I inherited a 45 years SOI, that was nice. That made that part easy. Right, so that didn't suck. But no, so Ingrid was really great as far as that goes. So we really did it for us as pain points, and that's what everybody's hearing is what is a pain point. And for me, what the pain point is everything that you're hearing here is the ability to be in the place you should be, whether that is work or personal. The team solution was the pain point. So as we grew, it was, I'm probably going into the next thing by saying all this, but as we grew, while we grew, was what were we doing that we didn't like to do or we weren't very good at doing that we could have somebody else do? And that was the first hire, which was generally the admin type scenarios. And that's when we started developing. So it was how can I be present at the games for the kids? How can I be on vacation? To your point, one of my greatest trips ever, and it was glorious and gasped. I literally handed my cell phone to my mother-in-law and I said, you got it, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And I went to Yellowstone for 2 weeks and drove around. My husband took all the pictures of his phone and it was glorious. So for me, that was the original, was solving the pain point. And then the second piece to team growth was when you hit that critical mass of production where you're making the money, there's room to make more money. You aren't sure if you're gonna be able to handle that next one. All really good first world problems to have. But do you just say enough, scale back, I'm happy at this level, or do you put the pedal to the metal and what does that look like? And that was the impetus for, all right, now I'll bring on agents. And that's where we went from there.
Awesome. And we are gonna get to some of that, because that's the meat and potatoes of why
It
we
is.
build teams, right?
Mhm.
The pain point.
Mhm.
Absolutely, without a doubt. All right, so Tracey, how long have you had, well, you've had the team since you got into the business.
Right.
Last year, what was your production in volume and units? And how many people did you have on your team, agents and admins?
Okay, last year we did 71 transactions. We closed 41.6 million in revenue. We have, last year we had 4 licensed agents on the team. The team then at that point also had our marketing director, who was roughly, I want to say maybe 5 hours a week, 6 hours a week, who was in charge of social media, things like that. And then I use a transaction coordinator. The team itself, I am not going to dictate that that's a thing. It's available, but I'm the only one that uses a transaction coordinator. So that's what the team looks like.
Awesome.
Same question.
Yeah.
Okay. So
For you guys, I think it's important that we are clear of what 2021 looked like and what 2022 looks like, because there's a big difference.
yeah, so we parallel partnered, dated for a while in like the business realm. And then we decided to build a team starting in June, but we only had a showing agent and an admin support at the time when we started, and then an TC, which I never used before, but John did, and that was really hard because I'm a control freak. And but it was everything.
Let me look around the room.
Yeah. Control freak. I could talk to you about that all day. But then we didn't start hiring our agents until Q4 of 2021. And from that, last year we did 48 million in sales with our one showing agent and us. And then we had about 6 at the end of the year. Now we're at 11, almost 12, waiting on a licensee. And we have 12 agents. Yeah, we have a VA, a marketing coordinator, TC, stager, and a bookkeeper. Yeah, so
Massive.
I mean, and we started because we were at a marketing summit at our brokerage that these 2 guys were involved in. And we were watching the videos and we heard about the showing agent. Like, oh, that's a thing, like we can do that. So I was always like, that was the hardest thing, because that's where I felt like I built my relationships. And I felt like or at least my business was 100% referral, just straight sphere. I didn't buy leads. I didn't convert leads. I suck at converting leads. But so that was like a big change for me. But to everybody's point, like it can be in the place when you get to a point, you plateau, and to scale, you have to, what can you fix where you're not losing those relationships? And then how am I going to make up for those relationships? But that's kind of like how we did it.
And ours is total work in progress. I mean, I think everybody's, it probably is, but you know, like for me, the pain point was my production hit that wall, you know, and then when I heard you guys talking about the showing agent model, I'm like, mind exploded. And then I realized really quickly, to this point, it's like, oh, I don't have to be in front of my client every 5 seconds. Like, I can push some of this out and it's okay. And it ended up being, I always say to her, it's like, I started getting more whiskey, as like a closing gift. Like my clients would bring me a gift and I was like, I didn't even show you any of these homes. Like, how is this happening? This is beautiful thing. I know. And so, exactly. So, I mean, it's very interesting, but yeah, I mean, the pain point thing, I think is the big thing. Like you figure out, okay, where are the issues and then how do we structure this in a way that works not only for hopefully the team is profitable, but also that, you're retaining agents and they're happy and they want to stay. And that's it. Kind of the name of the game. It's hard to figure all that out.
Yeah, that's a constant moving target.
Absolutely. What about you guys? Where'd you end 2021?
So we ended with right about 150 units for 120 million, and we had 7 producing agents. And then we have about 5 support staff in various roles. We have a TC for everybody, marketing manager, director of ops, and like a showing partner agent. So actually, I guess 4. And then Corey kind of oversees like the investment side where we have like a project manager on flips and builds. But yeah, so that's where we ended the year. And, I feel like we're just in a constant state of like, right now, we're actually rebuilding everything. So like we're in a complete state of chaos where all of our systems are getting scrapped. We just converted to a new CRM, new reporting system. We brought on a friend of ours for a long time. He was actually my college roommate for all 4 years. And he's been in the startup world. So he came on now as our like director of growth and sales. So he has like a tech background and he's just really kind of pushing us to, hey, you know what, like, let's blow this thing up. Let's go from 120 million to 250 to 5 to $1 billion. You see these teams doing a lot of sales and you can see how it can get done. And really now we're focusing on building our hub that we can support anybody's business to any scale that they want. And it's like plug and play. So I think that's something that's way different than us just being 80% referral based and investor builder, which we're going to continue, but also have this other side that can be a silo and a hub that produces and supports anybody, whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was big for us because actually the year before, so 2020, we did 200 units, like just shy of 120 million. So we actually took a little step back in production last year, which has like competitive people, it's hard to do. But we went through some turnover, some transition last summer. We kind of looked at everything and said, okay, we've got this operational guy, let's listen to him, we're basically breaking. So we kind of looked at that to get the second half of the year. And we still made up, we still sold houses, but we kind of looked at it as like, all right, we're going to build this year, next 2 quarters, instead of just focus on pure production. But again, it's tough to do. It's a decision you have to make. It's competitive people. It's not about the money. It's just about like, improving year over year, continuing to move forward. But then Gary Keller reminds us all the time, like we don't judge ourselves on our best year. We don't judge ourselves like the average of your last 5. So if you look at that, then it's like, okay, that's okay to take a step back for 1 year, take 2 steps forward over the next year.
Exactly. And that's our goal. Like our goal right now is to make sure this thing is set up for like 2025 and that we are in a way different place at that point, which is 3 years. Now, granted, we want to chip away and build that out as we go, but like that's kind of like the vision right now.
Yeah. And the vision all started somewhere, right? It started way back. It started with the pain point of you realizing that you don't want to be away from your son and you guys needing something else.
We also didn't deposit. That's probably the biggest thing is as far as paying for it, we actually had like 15 deals pending. We also flipped houses. We had 7 or 8 projects going. There's 2 of us. We didn't deposit $25,000 earnest money until after settlement.
Oh my God.
And that was
It was in my wallet all the
in
time.
the shop all the time. Luckily, it was like a
I'm
family
not a
friend.
detail guy though. That's all me.
Shannon, your mom stuff a long time ago. But essentially, we had no transaction coordination. We were running everywhere, making great money, able to do it. $30, $40 million production to us plus, project management. And we realized like, okay, that's a big deal. Luckily, the family friend, but once you realize that, you're like, we can't keep up with this pace and this production. And so that was like our first hire, I think, at that point. That was 2013.
And we did it the wrong way too. Hired an agent out of pain, not an admin.
Can we talk about that,
Are we
please?
going there next?
Because that's exactly where we're going, because everybody does that. Talk about that, please.
Yeah, so I think we're all salespeople, right? So we started at a big team at Debbie Dorville's, where Sean and I met, and we did 400 to 500 units pretty consistently for 4 or 5 years, and we had 30 to 40 team members at any given point. So we kind of got burned out after 4 or 5 years there. We said, all right, we're gonna go flip houses and just work on referrals. And so that was a couple of years for us. And then I think you realize that like you need help. And so you naturally gravitate towards the people that you like to be around, right? So we had a good longtime friend who loved interior design. She's actually a full-time Air Force captain, but she loved real estate, she loved design, so let's hire her, right? And so basically we brought in a brand new, inexperienced, never been a business agent, and it worked okay. And then we needed more help, so we brought on another agent, kind of quasi showing agent, buyer agent. So at one point we had 4 agents and no admin. And then you're frugal and you think you're gonna like
Not the ideal mix.
bootstrap it. So we brought on a very affordable, low capacity admin to support 3 top producing agents and 1 kind of part-time agent, and it didn't work. And so that was when we first joined the office, 2014, 15, probably parts of 16 as well.
We've definitely learned a lot and are continuously learning.
So there's a model, the MREA book. We read it. We're like, oh, we're smart. We can figure this out. we're scrappy. Just follow the model. We're gonna access their books.
Absolutely. So your advice is somebody just starting out when they're at the pain point, first hire should be.
An admin, 100%. Somebody that can take off your 80%. You got to find out what your 20% is. Do that. It's usually meeting people, negotiating, closing deals, and that's it. And then get the rest off your plate. Let them do it. And then as you continue to build that up, once you top out on what you can do, then you can bring on either another admin or someone that can help with the showings and that type of stuff.
But also, I think you've got to be a certain production. I think some people I've seen hire too quickly, and some people wait too long. So there's that sweet spot where I think some people, even in different periods of our business cycle, it's like if you build it, they'll come. But also, like you have to get that point before you kind of. So the first like easy hire is transaction coordination. Like, leverage that out because it's a variable. It's not necessarily a full-time commitment. And then once you get to your next kind of ceiling, then you start making that full-time hire. Now, we were talking earlier, like then you kind of commit the time to train that full-time hire, which a lot of people don't realize. We underestimate how much time that really takes as well. It's hard. Yeah, very hard.
Yeah.
I was gonna to kind of piggyback on that. Have you guys found? Because you mentioned that you hired agents first versus admin. What we found is like one difficulty is like having an admin that doesn't have real estate experience, and then it's like full train, like stuff that like we would be shorthand is like completely foreign language to them, and that part seems to be really hard. So I mean, of your hires over however many years, have you found like a sweet spot where there's maybe it's a former agent or an agent who doesn't really want to be out in production but is really good at that stuff, or how do you guys? Yeah.
So
Go ahead,
Tracey. Yeah, so you guys have an employee that is an employee for your team that's doing your admin and the transaction, is what I'm hearing. Just to clarify that.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so for my whole thing is, let's say that everything falls apart, you only do 5 transactions next year, which has never happened. But for me, I needed the scalability of it. So I'm a really big fan of, again, what is your 20%? You're going to make that money sitting in front of people, having the relationship, getting the listing, signing the listing. That's it. That is where you make your money, period, the end. Therefore, having somebody that's skilled to do it. So for me, outsourcing transaction coordination companies, and there's a bajillion of them. I happen to use one that I really, really love. So for me, what I love is it's a flat fee. It was back when I started, it was $300 a transaction. So for $300 a transaction, my checklist that I was using on a Google Drive to make sure I was doing everything I did, so I didn't have the $25,000 EMD sitting in my check. Oh my God. So what my checklist, which was my QC as an agent of, okay, I need to do that tomorrow, that's my thing, turned into my QI. My transaction coordinator knew that she needed to do that. So when I come back the next day to say, did that happen? But I have time and I'm not running and it's not close of business to say, okay, it happened, check. I can go back and say, so it put my mind at ease and it allowed me to come from a place of management and it happened in peace. But I could also pick and choose. If I wasn't busy, I didn't need to hire them to do that transaction because it was November. But if it was right now and there's a bajillion things going on, you better bet your bippy that these people are going to do it. And there's all kinds of transaction coordination. There's the ones where, okay, you're ratified, you're moving towards closing, but then there's also the setup. Are you comfortable with them entering it into the MLS? Are you comfortable with them doing your sign order? Do you have the photographer that you prefer and then 3 backups if they're busy that they can just work down the list to get it scheduled? There's all of that piece and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can pick and choose to make it scalable. So when it was just Ingrid and myself, it was easy for me to say, okay, you know what you're doing. They are licensed agents. They get the lingo. They can do the shorthand. And it's $300. And it just freed up roughly 8 hours a week of my time to go to the soccer game and get to a listing appointment. So it's penny wise and pound foolish to not spend it. That's all there is to it. It's penny wise. It takes money to make money, and that's little money to free up big time.
Couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys.
I don't know where.
We're
are
like,
we?
meh.
And then just one more thing. That was not our first hire. Our first hire was pseudo admin. So we did not go straight to transaction coordinator. We did, for me, it was I could handle my own checklist at first. So the hire that we did next was a part-time 1099 person who would make sure we got our posts up on time on social media. But it was time to do the client event. She's the one that designed the thing. I approved it. She got it printed, mailed it out, like the stamps, the $10 an hour job type of thing. I don't need to be spending my afternoon doing that. I need to be on my appointments. That's who we hired first. The breakdown, so important. So you finally close the file. The file goes on your desk. Next thing you know, your file's up to here because it's been 3 months and you haven't had a chance to close out your file. You've been paid. The house is closed, the deed is recorded, but did you put it in your SOI? Did you add the hashtag to be able to find it? Did you do the follow-up letter to say whatever it is you're going to say? How are things going? Did you know there's a really great pizza joint down the street from your house? And did you do those follow-ups so that you can continue to nurture that person after it's closed? I don't need to do that. The admin was doing that. So that was the very first hire, which was all encompassing. And then very quickly it got to be, okay, the meat of the transaction needed management, which she was not qualified to do because she wasn't a licensed assistant. So instead, that's when we said, okay, you're going to move into a marketing position. We'll deal with our own admin. And then the backside, or then she kept the back end admin, but then that's when we then parceled out the transaction coordination. So it was very much an evolution for 2 agents doing big volume, well, big enough volume for me, and for my definition. And then from there was scalable with the transaction coordination.
It's
And
funny how
then we brought it.
it ends up being an MREA model anyhow, right? If you
Right.
listen to what she said, she did it exactly like MREA teaches you.
Yeah.
It just sounds like you're outsourcing along the way.
Yeah.
And it's 1099 instead of.
Yeah.
employee.
Right, and the 1099 was the one thing where she was technically an employee, but I didn't want to deal with the taxes. So 1099 it was. We'll see.
I'm kind of glad when you can try not to do that.
No, I don't want to be a broker.
They tend to not do that so well.
Yeah.
You can outsource that.
Yeah. So what about, yeah. So what about you guys for your first hire?
Well, we had, when we started partnering up, I already had like an admin assistant that she was doing what like the $10 an hour jobs for me. Like just the things I didn't have the time to do, like build out like a graphic, I would tell her to do this, or like start doing my mailers, like stuffing envelopes, stamping, addressing, all that kind of stuff. And then as we merged together, she became our Swiss Army knife, and it was way too much because of the volume we were doing, and we were trying to funnel her into something that she was not, and like she didn't like doing it. So now it's kind of separating, like, okay, she's not a licensed agent. She was more like the admin kind of role, again, an executive assistant, if you will. And so now she's handling more like the training and the onboarding and the client service, like gifting and things like that. And then we're transitioning over and how we're going to be running like more like the operations of it all, like who's up working the back end. So we're like you guys are kind of there, like figuring out, like we're like getting there, I think, like at this point, but we are looking to see like it makes sense to hire somebody who has the experience as an agent, because they already know like we don't have the time to train. And that's what we lost out on. Like we lost a lot of time trying to train somebody to do something that they didn't want to do and shouldn't be doing. And so we learned that the hard way, and now we're fixing. When you lose time that way, like penny wise, pound foolish, right? Right. Yeah, like we made that mistake and we're learning from it. So that's what we're on, like in the middle of doing that transition.
And then the other piece, like we came separately with 2 different things. I already had the transaction coordinator, she had the admin. And so we kind of just merged it together. And there was a transition period where Andre had to get used to letting go of the transaction coordinator piece.
Like
And
3 months.
you know, but for me, I was already had it for a year and a half. And I'm like, trust me. She's like, you can't, I mean, you can't get to a certain production level. You will hit a wall. Like it's inevitable. Like if you are doing the right things and you're building your business, you're gonna hit it. Everybody hits it. And so like on our team, one of the things we started doing is like, I don't want to strong arm people into it, but it's more of a, if you use this now, like use a transaction coordinator, like you need to know what you're doing, but start it now. And that will free you up to be in front of your clients, to do these things. Like, so we're trying to basically strong arm people into using the TC. But at the end of the day, I think it helps in the long run.
It's a fine line though too, because you bring in a brand new agent and give them all
We
the
don't
support.
know.
I know.
They
Yes,
don't
we
know the
find that out.
contract, they don't know how to negotiate, like they don't understand the contract. And so we've had good salespeople. They walked like right into like contract writing, transaction coordination, courier, like the full support team, and they sold, but we realized a year in, they didn't know what they're feeling.
Yeah.
Right? It was kind of scary, some of the questions of contractual issues they were getting into, and we realized we almost missed that step because they got so much leverage that they just like let go. And that's a good thing from a business perspective, but it's scary from a liability.
And that's
And that is exactly why we at my team, of the 3 producing agents that are there, one as of January is like newly licensed, so she will not see a she will not see a transaction coordinator for a year. The second one chose not to. I told her, okay, you're ready at 6 months to use it. She said, no, let me keep going. So she's getting there. She's like 3 more transactions away from being like, I can't deal with that. I want a transaction coordinator, but she's there. But for exactly that reason, I said, you need to understand how to navigate this. And so therefore, transaction coordinator is fine when you're ready to turn it over, but it is glorious once you do.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like getting a housekeeper for the first
We
time.
don't-
Nobody cleans like I clean.
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't let our brand new agents use the TC yet.
Yeah.
But like the agents with experience that have been doing it, like we do, but that's super key because that's when like things fall through the cracks. There's always those like details that you're like, ooh.
But that's it. So like we had either, and then we had a guy come in who's got a lot of sales experience, no real estate experience 3 years ago. He sold 3 homes his first month. So we're like, we haven't qualified for this, you haven't qualified for this. And our maps coach is like, he's gonna sell 36 houses in a year, you're gonna like, hey, you're gonna slow him down, but it feels like let him go to his thing. So there's a balance, right? We're like, maybe you're right, maybe we
It's
should.
so
Fast forward 6
individualized.
months later, we had some issues.
Yeah.
Sometimes we found is that, you know, like to your point earlier, is like if you have a newer agent who gets all this leverage out the gate, they just don't understand the sacrifice and the hustle that's
They don't-
required. Like,
They don't know.
you know, where they're like, oh, I really don't feel like driving, 45 minutes. I'm like, huh?
That's when I like bust out like my parent, like I walked 5 miles in the snow. Like, that's when I get like, yeah, like I was,
You guys put that aside.
yeah, like I drive on a Saturday morning, said peace out to my husband with 2 kids. I was like, I gotta go to this rental in Stafford from Leesburg, Loudon. And I was like, that's what I'm like, I know, think back, I'm like, wow, it worked out. But, and I didn't even get it. I didn't get it because the girlfriend filled out the application without my name and the agent wouldn't give it. So we're like, these are the sacrifices like that we did and like the hustle and bustle that it took to get to this point too. Like, it's almost like I said sometimes, like, we want to make it easy and we want to set everybody up for the success and like learn from our mistakes and our pain points and have them prepared. So like, if you do this now and you get into good habits now, when you're busy, you don't have to worry about figuring it out because it's gonna happen. Like, that's our goal for you. It's you're gonna get busy. Like, we're here to build your business. Like, but getting into the habits now is the most important thing. But then we're also like, there's a fine line of like silver platter. Like, you don't have to work hard for it either. Like, I want everybody to feel like work hard for it.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, I had a team. We did about 125 transactions a year. I had 4 buyer's agents, and my buyer's agents did not touch a lead for the first 30 days. That was mandatory on our team. No, you shadowed, you showed me how you did a consultation, you wrote a contract for me, like you did all the work. Because when I was gonna put my name on you and send you out to my clients, if you didn't represent me the way I wanted you to, then you didn't go. And some of them had to actually wait longer than 30 days because they weren't proficient by the time they hit the 30-day mark. So don't be afraid to hold back and say, until you're fully trained, you can't do X, Y, and Z because you're saving your name, number one, and the liability for the office. I think you guys have a training program kind of that you have set up. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I love this. It's an 18-step program that we're working on. So yes, it's it's about 18 steps. It is 18 steps depending on if you're a new agent or experienced agent. And basically it's an onboarding process. We only hire certain times during the year, and that's to make sure like we're leveraging our time correctly. We hire somebody every week, like we're just all over the place. So we typically do it like once a quarter or twice a quarter, like we're looking to go into Q3 and hiring. So it's an onboarding process. Like one thing we try, you have to use our system. It's the only way for us to be fluent in our communication. So it's welcome to the team. You get a nice little care level up package. And it's here's the videos. Step one, you do this. Cool. Then we're gonna have an in-person training with our admin who's doing the trainings on our systems. And then the middle piece is if you're a brand new agent, we have them walk through setting up a loop, writing a contract, and then there's a test at the end, which is basically you're doing everything from concept to completion, and we're reviewing it, and then you have to shadow like 3 different agents to pick up golden nuggets on different ways they do it and kind of figure out what works for you. And then it's like, then we'll give you a lead and off you go. But if you're brand new, it works a little bit different than if you're a seasoned agent. So we are actually almost completed with that and just teaching everybody how to do it so they're ready when they do get that business.
We've been upfront with anybody that we do hire. We've been like, you know, we use this all the time, like we're building the plane in the air. And it just
Wanna
like,
come for
you
the ride,
know, if
you're
you're welcome, if you want to come, you can, but just like have some patience because we're working on it. And it's, you know, it's one of these things, like I will say this question hasn't come up, but like creating a team, if that's something you're looking to do, or joining a team, like anything, like it's harder than it looks. You know, let's say that, like, you know, there's some stuff to it, like to get used to. And I equate it to when I started in real estate, like I'm a professional musician as a background, like, and at the time when I started, I was like, this has no crossover at all.
Yeah.
And it does actually.
It's
It's
just
just
keep the bees in the background. So it's nice.
but that being said, like when I started real estate, like it took me a couple of years to figure it out. And now we started this team and it's like, it's gonna take a couple of years to figure this out too. And, you know, it is. what it
We've
is.
tapped on these guys a couple of times, like, how long does it take to get our shit together? Because we're not there
Still
yet.
working on ourselves.
It's been 6 months. I feel like we should be there. Like,
I also think too, I mean, and you talked about how the team concept began, but I don't think what's been addressed here is what is the end game here? And you guys touched on it. I mean, you had the flip business, you had your resale
We're gonna
business,
get there.
et cetera.
Yeah.
But I think, but that's huge. Like, just don't start growing something. You gotta have, I mean, as with anything, what is your goal this month? What is your annual goal? What is your 5-term goal?
Right.
And then build your team to that don't just start building, because not the way I have a team is totally different. than
Yeah,
what
I
know
wanna
for
get
my
to
team
that,
is very
because
different than what their goals
I
are.
loved listening
So
to
that's
how you
very
have your team.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, let's pretend like we're on the phone again.
I'm gonna
Yes.
go ahead and
Yeah.
drive this
Yeah.
conversation. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, you guys are in massive growth mode. You're basically little mini brokerages. Okay, I mean, you're having your little mini brokerages. I had no desire to manage agents, train agents. I have zero desire to do that. So for me, it really came to the point of I could be perfectly comfortable at this exact same production, but boy, wouldn't it be nice to keep it in the family, have my sign in somebody else's yard underneath somebody else's name? What does that look like? How does it feel, etc. So for me, what the team was not ultimate growth. It was support, co-marketing, the end. And if we get there, we don't need to be the biggest, baddest agents in the planet here. I just need to hit my commission threshold to pay my bills, go on the vacation, and live the life that I'd like to live from a comfort standpoint. So our team, when you look at our team, my mother-in-law brought me in because she was top producing agent forever and ever and ever, and basically wanted to stop doing the yuck stuff, her words, and start doing the fun stuff. So showing properties. I mean, who else could show a property better than somebody that's got 45 years experience in Northern Virginia? She's amazing at showing that. She's just this morning I had her running. She met the photographer, put a key in the lockbox, put the lockbox on, rescued me from a closing that was never going to close, so I could get here. She's going to be going and starting a walkthrough for a new home build so that I could do this today. That wouldn't have happened without the team. It's fun for her. You know what she's not doing? It's Friday night. You're supposed to be at your neighbor's house for a barbecue and you're taking phone calls until 10 p.m., ruining your good time. That's my job. I get to do that. So that's where it came in. She is a grandmother, would like to spend time with the grandkids. We had another agent who came into the office and she said, my daughter's pregnant. I'm never going to take another phone call for the personal dinner again. I when the grandbabies come, I want it. So she came in. She's scaling back, but doesn't want to retire. So she was perfect fit for our team because it's I want to make X, that's cool. We want her to make X, we'll be there to support you. So when I need to make the phone call, we're there for each other. So it all boils down to what is the goal for your team? I don't want to get any bigger. I've got the 3 producing agents, one that's about ready to start producing because she is a brand new agent. She was our marketing director, he just moved up. And then we've got Ingrid, who is the running around doing the fun stuff. And then we've got the 2 support staff. That's it. We don't want to be any bigger. So understand what you're trying to do and why you're doing it. And a lot of that happens in the shower when you're not distracted. You're talking about that. Oh, I can just do that. So it's great when you get that cold lead and you don't do dual agency. You give it to somebody in your team, and then your whole team gets referral fees and gets the whole thing. And it just works out. And it's okay to give up some of the business to your teammates, and still reap the benefits of it later. It will come, it will grow, it's organic, it all goes out, and it's all in how you sell it to your clients when you go on that listing appointment. It is not unusual for our clients to see all 5 teammates at some point. And it's not a go down the chain, I got the listing, somebody else is handling it. It's I can't get there today, so everyone's gonna jump in. Okay. Nobody cares. So just know what you're doing, know why you're doing it and how you want to structure it. Nothing is right or wrong. It's just what's right for you.
Exactly. And I think that's why I was really excited that you guys kind of do things differently, right? Because there's different ways to do things for different people in different seasons of your life. You know, one of the things you had said to me was that you're a horizontal team as opposed to a vertical team. And that made a lot of sense to me because not every agent wants to be where they are or where they are, but maybe where you are, that sounds great.
Right. And by horizontal, what that means is I am not like, people don't get leads from me. Really hard for leads, and thank you very much. So with that said, the way that we are structured, and it's too soon for the commission talk, but the way that we're structured is that right now there's just the 2 primary agents, the 3 licensed assistants. We give them a little chunk just to keep them busy and engaged, but the whole point is they're going to make a lot more money as licensed assistants by working the sphere. So they're plug and play with our marketing system. They know what we're going to do. They're encouraged to do. They pay for their own marketing, but their money is saved in the end because they have less expenses rather than selling more homes. If that makes sense, they don't have to pay for the photographer. They don't have to pay for that because it gets run through the 2 primary agents. But they're still encouraged to tap into 17 years of real estate sphere and top producing production in order to produce. So they are encouraged to continue to grow their businesses without the headaches, while we're encouraged clearly to grow our own business to keep it out there. And it just works out. And the idea is that you're just there to support one another. It's very kumbaya. You know, it is. I mean, we fire pit, have some bourbon, and call it a day. Or wine. So we'll have some
Awesome. Tracy, do you think at some point in your business you'll get to the point where you're tired and you need to step out, you want to step out?
So that's kind of where it all went from. We got to the point where if Ingrid ever, and that's ultimately what triggered it for me, was if Ingrid ever retired, what value was she bringing to the table? The spheres were already, muddy. If her sphere was my sphere was her sphere. So that wasn't an issue. So for me, it was like, all right, she's my mother-in-law. When she goes, I'm gonna get everything anyway. So what's hers is mine, mine is hers. So I could just do half as much business, make exactly the same kind of money. But at the time I was in my early 40s. And I was like, well, that's too soon. So, so I was like, let's go, what does this look like? And what is the value? And the value to me was, and you said it, these are the same people I am representing, because this is not the Tracey Barrett team. My name is not on our team. It is an LLC and with Focus on Nova. So when the Focus on Nova team shows up at somebody's table to say, I'm here, we flat out say, we are 5 totally different women that have totally different backgrounds, and we all bring different strengths to the table. And with that, you're going to have one heck of a representation when we bring it to you. So they're expecting the diversity. And ultimately, if Sharon ever does retire, her people are still here, but they're already used to us. They've heard us. They've seen our picture. They're getting inundated with the marketing. So it's very natural transition for her to go into referral status and leave everything with the team, which is exactly what I set myself up for. So that if I ever just need to have that longevity and retire in 5 years, 15 years, 30 years, whatever that looks like, I'm in a position to step down, go in referral status. It's exactly the same branding, customer service, and all of the value add that we have. And that for me was what it was. What do I build? What experience, what name brand, what reputation is out there for our team so that our spheres are comfortable referring us regardless of who shows up on the doorstep.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I love the way you had such a different team aspect than everybody else did. It was awesome. So you touched on team splits.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to you last. Cool. Where are we at with team splits? How did it go?
Yeah, so we
Rebuild that this quarter.
Yeah, we just rebuilt that as part of the rebuild, the rebrand. So we, before it was, you know, we had buyer agents and I was the lead listing agent. Corey worked with all of our investors, builders. So since then now we've transitioned to where everybody can do both sides, right? So now it's like building out that hub to make sure everyone's supported by the team because they want to do both sides. So the way that the splits work is if somebody brings their own buyer, it's 60-40 their way. If we give out one of our referrals that we don't want to run with as a buyer, it's 60-40 our way. Any cold leads, such as open houses, online leads that we convert, things that we do, it's 50-50. And then we're now starting to build out an ISA division that's starting to book appointments for people. So that's going to be another 60-40 our way. So that 10% comes from them. So basically our split's the same. And then on the selling side of things, anybody can work with their sphere at a 50-50 split. From the team, we cover the 10% listing manager fee. So it's really like a 60-40 to them with all the leverage, and then we cover all costs. Any other cold leads, anything like that, open house leads, they come back to the team and I'll service that as a listing agent. They get a 25% referral fee for just bringing it in.
Awesome.
Yep.
And then you're showing agent.
Showing agent gets 10% of the commission paid by the buyer side. So it's a 50-50 split or where, keep it 60-40, whatever the split was from the lead source. 10% comes from the agent using them because they're getting leverage, should be able to do more. Don't have to use it, highly encouraged.
Yeah. And you guys run really close to the MRA model, which is great. And I want you guys in the audience to hear that if you choose to run a model like that, the reason that you get splits that are that type of a split is because you have value. If you don't have the value that they have, then you're actually robbing the agent of their commission because you're not providing the support that you need to provide for the amount of money that you're taking. So be careful as you're building that you're doing the right thing and you're not just following the model. Like the model has many steps. And the steps say you put the value in place before you take the commission.
Exactly. Well, then that goes like to the sphere, right? We'll have client parties, right? Appreciation parties.
Yeah.
It might be 10, 15, 20 grand. The team covers the whole cost of that. So we're paying for everybody's head, no matter what it is. We pay for all of the leads, you know, online leads. It's a 6-figure lead spend. We pay for all of that and disperse it throughout the team. So basically, yeah, we cover all the costs and we nurture their database. So they plug into our system, right? 36 touch, and their database is getting marketed to specifically from them, but like powered by us and funded by us. So it's all in, it's not cheap. And you know, we going through this process, you know, we actually put together like the value add that the team was. It was even like mind blowing to us where it's like, oh wow, damn, we pay for all of this. You know, okay, that's a lot of money.
When you break it down, it comes down to a 2-page document. And there's actually more than you think. So if an agent joins our team, essentially the only expense that they have is their cell phone, their MBAR, dues, their people, and that's it. And gas, right?
And if we can't double your business, then we're just not the right fit. Something's not right. We're not doing right by you, or it's just from your whatever. This is not a good fit. If we can't double what you're doing on your own.
Absolutely.
And that's a good thing too. Like most agents know some agents know their GCI, most agents know their volume. Very few agents know their true net.
So GCI means gross commission income because different brokerages use different things.
Revenue. Right, most agents know how many homes they sold. Some agents know volume. Some agents know their revenue with the running last year, but very few that we've interviewed met with actually track their expenses closely. So that's what we started. Figure out how to actually increase your net, because everybody looks at splits, but they don't look at their actual earnings.
Yeah, great.
And that is the most important number in all of this. Without a doubt.
Well, also how many hours are you working to get to that?
Yeah.
So when you're leveraged out, hopefully you're not,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Because you're leveraging correctly. Right.
Yeah, so we try and do a plug and play system and heavy on the marketing and showing the value there, I would say. We do a 70-30 split with a team cap of 20,000. And once you hit the 20,000, you become a 90-10 agent. If you're a brand new agent, the first 3 deals are 50-50, no matter what each sphere. And the cap, only your personal SOI counts towards your cap. If we give you a lead, it's 50-50. And if we give you one of our referral source leads, is 40 them, 30 to us, and we have to give 30 to the referral source. So that's, and then we have the showing agent as well. We have 2 different kinds of showing agents. So 10% if they're opening the doors, doing your walkthroughs, doing your home inspection, if we get any more again, and then your final walk. And then the 7.5% if you're just like opening doors and doing a virtual tour. So. there's a couple
And
different
we've
ways.
just found that, again, when there were home inspections and that, I mean, that's a huge time
Yeah.
suck, can be a time suck. So, you know, if those are happening, you know, obviously, I'm definitely gearing towards, hey, you should definitely get more. But as those started to go away last year, it was also like,
That's
you
when we
know,
started doing the second half.
but yeah, we totally stole that.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, and the, you know, this lead source that I get, it's a military thing, and they take, you know, they take 30% off the top, and I have to, one of the 2 of us has to have the initial call, basically have a quasi buyer's consult with them. The contracts have to go under our name, so it's a lot more intensive in terms of us being involved. So that's why we can't do 50-50, where it's, I always say it's like, basically, I'm gonna set up these things for you, just knock them down.
Right.
If not, follow up and nurture for 6 months. It's like, these people are ready to go. They have a pre-approval. Like, just, I don't want to deal with the questions from this point until the end of the transaction. So that's how we're rolling with that. And that's kind of where we started. And I think, you know, we'll probably have a situation come next year where we have to figure it all out and see if this is working or not working and how we're adjusting.
But that's also that's just business.
Yeah.
You're sitting down on a quarterly basis at minimum and looking at your bottom line. I mean, shame on you, you're running a business. Know what
Yeah.
you're spending, know what you're making. That just, you should do that, and that's just part of it, and then you tweak accordingly.
Yeah, and we also, if they do want to use the transaction coordinator, we cover a large portion, like 75% of that cost for them too. There's a lot of, I think our value is more, we don't really give a lot of leads, we don't buy leads, like, and so I think the value is we teaching everybody how to run their own business, and our first thing we always say is like, you are going to make more money by working your own sphere versus us handing you something. And so we're teaching everybody how, or actually coaching everybody on how to work your sphere so you can get to that 90%. And like the cap is just to like keep everybody motivated and keep the lights on. And, you know, we do cover costs for our client events, and we have access to like all of our partners. We built that out. We have like a 4-page, like something that looks real pretty, like thing of like what everything that we do to support. It's really supposed to be like a plug and play. We figured this out and this works. So if you want to work on your business, like follow these steps, and like we do the emails on behalf of everybody. Like, it's not, hey, I'm the Andre and John show. It's level up. We don't have our name on it. We're not rainmakers, but everything goes under our name. So
Maybe making you guys feel bad yet.
No,
No.
not at all.
No.
Their names go together so well.
I know, like,
No,
like
you
you
know what I mean?
can't have like back rally Martinez. It's like that's like
Yeah,
kill
yeah,
a business card.
Trademark your name. One reason we have our name on it is because we had a trademark infringement lawsuit in 2014 on Metro Living Team.
Oh, wow.
And so we actually went through that very expensive, painful process. We said, okay, I don't want to go through this again. What can we trademark? And it was.
Pretty sure no one's gonna take our name.
So that's the only reason. So if we haven't trademarked, it literally goes through that process because there's a trademark troll that basically trolled us, and it cost us $100,000 for that. It cost us 30 to change.
Yeah.
So it's just that painful experience. I never expected.
That is good advice.
I mean, starting there, I mean, but
So
when
it's
I,
not pride.
yeah,
it's
so my
just practicality.
mother-in-law, who was old school, and you know, she was flexible, it was a two-page contract. When I joined her, I was like, so we will be doing an LLC, and we will be getting church. So we did all of that up front, because I was like, this is not,
Not dealing with this.
we're not doing that. I'm not getting that phone call.
I will say the upfront thing too that we started doing that our coach recommended too is we wrote out, and we have a lawyer like drafting up everything like to make it more official of like while we still liked each other, if we were to dissipate, like what that looks like, to be fair, yeah, exactly, our prenup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for everything, you do it for your LLC, do it for your LLC, number one, and then number two, then have separate documents for your teammates that they will sign. And have an attorney do it correctly, and so it's enforceable, and it doesn't, but it doesn't cost so much money. It's not $30,000. Yeah,
And then you're proactive and reactive.
right, I mean, if I've spent maybe $2,500 in attorney's fees to draw up contracts, you know, I'm overestimating, probably closer to 1,500. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that is so worth it in the long run, just to be able to like do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the cost of fighting over like one lead or one client. It's also-
Yeah.
And it also preserves the relationship.
Forever, right, exactly. So, okay, so us, how do we do it? So part of my whole thing was I watched the overall scenario where you have these people that are just like you guys. Awesome salespeople, totally get it, good business heads, you train them up and they're gone in 3 to 5 years, which sounds awful from a training standpoint. So that was not a model I wanted to go after. So my whole deal was, is how can I give, it's like you let the bird set it free and they'll come back again. So my whole thing is I want every single person on my team to at any moment be able to pick up and go with all their accolades. So this is my production, this is my MRIS number, this is it, and be able to show the statistics there. So this doesn't go under me. Best thing that ever happened in Bright in the last 6 months is that they did include the team affiliations with that, because now my team gets the glory, but the agent gets their own personal glory. So when somebody says to the brand new agent, well, what did you produce last year? It's, well, the team and I produced this, and then they have an out that's there and they can co-market or horizontal. So my whole goal was, how do I get people to stay? So from a primary agent, which we have 2, it's an 80-20 split. So anything I procure or Lynn procures, it's an 80-20 split. And the 20% then goes to the 3 licensed agents. And so they get 6.6%. So now we are, again, by design, we don't want to bring on more licensed assistants, because all of a sudden their take home starts to get a little bit less and they're incentivized to stay busy, because if they're not, then we're going to bring somebody else who can and they make less money. So that's how that works. Then we have the licensed assistants. I want them to work their sphere. Why? Because when they retire, I want them to be active and engaged so that I can get their business later. So in the meantime, that is a 50-50 split, but they pay for nothing else. They don't pay for photography, they don't pay for staging, they don't pay for anything. They just get 50% of the commission, and they like to do the fun stuff. They don't like to do the nasty stuff. So unlike the tee it up, go play scenario, it is, here's the lead, here's the listing appointment, let's go, and the primaries work it, and it does go underneath us. Licensed assistants get no credit in MRIS. Wow. In Bright. So, wow, so those get run underneath myself or Lynn. How do we divvy it up? Lynn, are you busy? Okay, come on, and we go. And what we have found out, and I was a little worried about, is it going to be fair? And the reality is that we are just busy enough that it's just shaken out, and we're all just bumping along doing about the same thing, and it's fair. So they get the 50-50. For the licensed assistants, it comes down, and I love that you teed up the net. Know your net. It's not how much you make, it's how much you spend. You can make $2 million a year, and if you're spending 1.7 of it, you're only going to take home 300. If on the other hand, and I'm not going to do math because this is not my strong point, but the point is, you can make less and spend less, and then ultimately have the same bring home. So that's what we do. So somebody that was producing 17, Sharon was on average doing 17 transactions a year. She is supposed to procure 10 transactions this year. And with the 20% that else makes up, she's going to make exactly the same amount of money as if she had worked as a primary on 17 transactions. So she's doing less, which frees her up to go be grandma when she wants to be a grandma. So that's how we do that. So we strip out their expenses, the team. But what we don't do is we don't do what you guys are doing as far as the email campaigns and things like that. When we do a mailer, if she only has, for this particular mailer, 100 people that she wants to send it to, and I have 300 people, you pay for what you use. When we do a client event, for the general marketing for the event, that is something that is divided 5 ways. No, I'm sorry, it's a 70-30 split for that type of stuff. And what I mean by, if we're doing a general event where, I can't even think of a thing. And say we do like a Facebook campaign for something like that. The primaries will split 70% of that, so 35, 35, and then the secondaries will do the rest of the 30%, so 10% each. So that reduces their expenses. We're getting a lion's share of the glory when it comes to it. If something hits with them, it's a 50-50%, but we would take 50, so it works up for it. We make it work that way. The only other place where it gets a little bit more fuzzy is with Legion. We're part as Redwood, we're part of Century 21 is part of Realty, so we do have the cardist relocation offer or possibilities, which while I'm grateful for the business, holy moly, when it's all said and done, it's 0.8%. That's an awful lot of paperwork for commission. I consider it a Gerber baby insurance policy. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, but you don't need to go ask to be bitten. So I discourage that. And while licensed assistants aren't supposed to be working with the ugly, if they choose to take a lead through that with that reduced commission, then they will work all of it. And I am not going to do anything with it. I get 20% of it. They get 80% of it, but if it's going to be run under my name and I'm going to get sued for something that they do, I want 20% of that commission. So that's where that goes. Marketing, the only other exception is if you and I teamed on a geo farm and we decide that we're going to co-market a geo farm, we'll split that 50-50. And we had to do a blanket rule to keep the peace. If anything comes out of that geo farm, it is a mandatory 50 split by the people who decided that as of such and such a date within these geographic parameters, that is the established geo farm. And if it pops up, doesn't matter if it was your, I mean, literally my next door neighbor across the street from me died. The daughter called, said, can you please sell my dad's house? I said, absolutely. It's in my geo farm. I share it with Lynn. It was a 50-50 split. She never met them. You know, meanwhile, I'd like brought them soup type of thing. So it's a non-negotiable. And so
it's worth the relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's your relationship, it's the 50-50 split essentially.
with the geo farm. And with that is all of the expenses go. And that's just the geo farm stuff. So there's nuances, it's layered. We had to work it out. When does the chaos stop? And then there's all these weird scenarios that pop up. But in the end, you got to be clear. I didn't want to take, I wanted to encourage, and then the value, in addition to what we have for marketing plans, is the plug and play, pay as you go, but they're paying for less overall. And therefore they make the same money that they want to make, and they're motivated to generate, because if they don't have this 50-50 splits, you're not going to live long with 6.6% of every transaction. So it motivates them to keep working.
Do you see how different they are?
There's a big whiteboard involved.
Yeah.
I
It's a lot.
I took a lot of
But it's-
notes,
but
and
it's
it's
written
only reason
down.
I know
It's
the difference
horrible.
between all of them. I took a lot of notes, but they were extremely different, there's no doubt. All right, what is the biggest challenge that you have with your team currently?
I would say two things. With our team, or like that we're that.
Well,
like
running a
for
team,
us,
what's the
I would
biggest
say
challenge?
two things. One, we are working to make sure, like Gary says, like we're big on our sphere, right? Never want to lose that, but like as a team of like kind of where we want to go, we need lead flow, and we need to bring lead flow to the team. So that like having a lead flow and funnel that we can close and convert at a high level, and switching the culture to becoming a prospect-based team.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get to the point where if you can't pick up the phone and start calling, this may not be the place. And I think that that's something when the market shifts. Right now, I mean, we already sell, of our 200 units that we're doing on an annual basis, a third of them are trade to cancel off market, and that's only increasing. So you got to go find the inventory. I think more inventory is coming, but like you got to be the first to it, and you can't just wait for stuff to kind of show up. So I think switching the culture to that is going to be painful, but I think it's something that's going to be necessary.
Yeah, because up until this point, basically, I mean, really, it's been referrals and open houses and
And investor buildings.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We've had three pillars
Yeah.
for a long time that have but we've realized those three pillars have gotten us to 100 million, it's gotten us to 110 million, it's gotten us to 120 million. It's a great business. We think it's a very stable business, but in order to break through that next ceiling, like talking to the other teams, like learning from Gary, is that you have to introduce additional builders. Those two builders are the inside sales agent, which we outsourced over the years with little success, and then the online lead. And that's never been us. It's never been our business. But we realize in order to break through that ceiling, like talk to how many teams are like the inside salesperson is that next threshold to get you like past that 125 mark. And we've had someone messy for 3 weeks and we're super excited for what we're seeing so far. Oh yeah.
So for those people who don't know what an inside sales agent is, what is that?
So so he's OSA, ISA. So we basically you're prospecting. So we just set records in 4 neighborhoods this month, right? So he's circle prospecting around those listings, just saying, hey, shot in the dark. You guys have any thoughts of selling? Also, by the way, we just broke the record by 250 grand down the street. This is your window to sell. He's booked 5 or 6 listing appointments in the last 2 weeks that way. And then also with Realtor Zillow online leads, he is basically taking the inbound. And also like it true once he's fully integrated, we'll also be taking sign calls as well. And then also when we're doing a winery event at Paradise Springs, we're open at 150 to 200 people there. He'll also call the database, call leads and clients and invite them as well. So basically he is making 300 to 400 dials per day. Yep. And the goal is to have 10 quality conversations.
But as those inbound leads come in, right, Realtor leads, whatever, Zillow leads, Ojo leads, he's the one snagging it because he's Johnny on the spot. And then he's booking an appointment for someone on the team. So like, that's it, as opposed to an agent trying to have a buyer consult with this cold leads, like you get in front of them, get Eric, whoever in front of them, and then let them close.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a game changer. It blows my mind.
Open house leads as well. So we built out 4 new systems in the last 5 months. So the biggest challenge also, in addition to what Sean said right now, is like this is peak season, right? Springtime is go time. Like our systems that we just rebuilt are getting broken right now. And it's partially system, it's partially training, it's partially process. But like this is where your systems really get stressed. Spacio is another thing that we're using, which now the ISA is calling open house leads, right? So if we have 40 groups through the open house, we need to get, capture all of their information who came through. An agent's having 2 or 3 quality conversations. Our goal for every agent is to get 1 closing for quality open house. There's 38 people that we're not following up with. In 3 weeks, he's talked to like 37 people who have already
37 people that
This
bought
year.
that from, well, since last year, but 37 leads that we had in our,
pipeline.
Somewhere.
That essentially, so like, we're all guilty of it, right? You're having that 2 quality conversations. You're gonna stay in front of those 2. One's gonna be an A lead, one's gonna be a buy lead. The other 20 people are just gonna fizzle out. Granted, a lot of people have relationships with other realtors. Some may not buy, but there's 10 or 20% in there that we could convert. And so that's really his other job, just nurturing those leads. And that's where we're starting to see the power of the follow-up. But we didn't have the system 6 months ago set up properly for him to do that at scale, because we had Salesforce, which was awesome, but also like extremely complicated and cumbersome to build out. There's no automation.
And expensive.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to build it out to what we would want, yes,
6
we
figure
would be able to, would want to do it. So follow-up boss integrates with all this other stuff. It's super.
So question, when you were hiring the ISA, which route did you go there, like for finding?
Thank God he found us and he left the team that he'd been doing this for 8 years on. And last year they did 101 deals and he brought 33 of them from all cold calling. So it was like, dude, come.
And that's just his jam.
That's his jam. That's all he wants to do.
He doesn't
He's like,
want.
I don't
He
want.
doesn't want to be in front of people. He wants to work with us from the office. He gets in at 7:30. He tries to wrap up at 4:30 and 5 before that.
How do you
He loves it.
So
It's crazy.
How do you
we've tried it 3 or 4 different ways and failed every time. So we're still
Yeah.
figuring this one out. So don't get
No,
me
it's
wrong.
brilliant. It's absolutely what you have to do. That's the game
Oh, for
changer.
sure. And so he has
Brilliant.
a pretty solid base and then he gets 10% of any deal he closes.
Brilliant.
So our goal is to double his earnings from last year by joining the team. So far, we think we can do that.
And it's an absolute, and our goal honestly for him is that we build out like the division that he oversees, and it's like, hey, like, literally, when you talk about your 20%, and I think that's where like the scalability comes into play, is like, he's just booking appointments, and I had 3 listing appointments yesterday, 1 tomorrow, and I'm just going on these.
Finally,
Yeah, no,
He's been
honestly,
giving us
I've been
crap for
giving him
years.
hell for the longest time. It's like, I go on 3 a week. I'm like, dude, you should be going on 2 a day.
no, seriously, and I think,
Good.
I'm finally starting to see the light, and I'm like, okay, this is what this can look like at a high level, and if my job was to go on 3 to 4 listing appointments a day, and that was it, I mean, it's game over. Like, even if I only get 25% of them, like,
Yeah.
but that is an absolute game changer. So like, that's what's kind of like got me going now at this point. Like, all right, let's turn this thing up.
Yes. But it's a proud mama moment. I'm just saying, I'm super excited right now.
But again, we're in our first 30 days, so we're like very excited, but cautiously optimistic. He's a great team, he's crushing it.
Oh, yeah, and he's absolutely
And
killing it.
we've outsourced that hire a few times to different call centers. The KW sponsored. We almost went to, what's the one called? interview with
Cyber
cyber
hacker.
Cyber
like, there's all kinds of different ones that are costing you $2 to $4 grand a month. And we've had very limited success with those. So we decided, but we looked for a year with this person too. Like we were interviewing for literally a year.
Yeah.
So
It's gotta take the right.
it's not.
I mean, it's a special breed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, really.
That's
Like,
a
he does not
special
want
kind
to
of
know
crazy.
his house. He does not want to turn down anything.
You don't even have a license.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Ballpark, what is space around?
Yeah, so ballpark, so the model says $2 to $4 grand a month. He's kind of right in the middle of that.
Okay.
$2,000 to $4,000 salary plus variable costs, so 2.5% to 10% of sale.
Incentivize them to-
Exactly.
Yeah, and in my opinion, it should be a 6-figure role. If for someone at that level that's booked at that much, they should be 6 figures for sure.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and we had someone that role, Tyler, for a year and a half. He was making 30 to 40 grand a year because he was making the calls, but he wasn't able to close at a high level. He should easily make 90 to 120 in his first role in 12 months if the numbers that we're already doing stays. Oh yeah, it stays. And Sarah Reynolds says this a lot, which is like a lot of teams when they start off, you're building a team saying inside sales like a start level position. Like Reynolds preaches this all the time. Like that should be one of your top people. And I think like we say like, oh, we're showing agents is like a stepping stone. That's a great role. Like, that's a 6-figure role as well. In inside sales, I think a lot of us think of like that should be a low cost high production, but it really should be a high cost high production. And that person, like he's been in this role for 8 years. I wouldn't last a year in that role, but he loves it. He does it really well. He should be well compensated for that and be able to make a great living, stay in that role forever if anybody wants to. I think as teams and like just like real estate in general, we think it's like a call center. It's a starter position, but it really is not. So you should pay that way as well.
Right, well, look how much extra income you guys will make because of that role, and so you need to compensate based on
100%. Yeah.
how the growth
Well,
is
it could
going,
be
right?
literally $500,000 in GCI.
Right,
He's just crazy what they earned last year. Like he was working with
yeah,
Is that 10% coming from the buyer?
Off the top.
off the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. So if he's booking you a buyer appointment on your calendar, that 10% is going on your side. If he's booking, depends on the lead source.
Yeah.
10% is coming off the top. It gets split quarterly.
Yeah.
But again, he's fun up to your 80% that you get for.
What's the
he's-
thing?
yeah.
I've been down that road before. That's all.
Listen, you.
Johnny. What's up? He's
All right, biggest challenge.
All right, I'll speak for myself. I mean, I think we're having the issue of, last year for me was my best year in production as a solo. I mean, even though half of the year was solo and half of it was sort of starting the team, my best year ever in terms of production and everything else. So transitioning off of that and realizing, okay, well, like I can't do that level of production and build a team. And so that's sort of the balance. That's the most difficult thing right now for me. It's just like, I know where I'd like this to go. And I have to back myself out of it a little bit. So I can really focus on building and strategizing systems and like trial and error or whatever it's going to be. So in terms of actual production, myself, building the team, managing the team, all three of those aspects, it can be.
How many units did you do last year?
Or 53. Yeah.
Doing that and
Yeah.
trying.
All right. Yeah. It was 50. I mean, it had help. I mean, it's not like it takes a village, but couldn't have done it without showing assistant and the TC and this one. So it wasn't totally solo.
Yeah.
No, still that's work. Oh yeah, it's work. So my whole thing this year was like, okay, I'm cutting that. My goal was just like, I got to cut that in half, and then I can focus on trying to help leverage this stuff out. And hopefully, any of these agents that we're working on training, like I'm feeding them a lead, hey, I'm still getting a piece of that. It's not going to be nearly as much, and there's going to need to be more of that. But trying to figure out, okay, where's the baseline? Like you mentioned, where's that baseline? Like so you can cover the bills. I'm sort of similar to you. Like I don't need to take over the world. She does, but like I don't need to take over the world. I just want to have a comfortable living and like hopefully. But it works really well because we push each other in different ways. Like she's always driving for more, and I'm the one pulling the reins back a little bit. And we meet somewhere in the middle. You see, yeah, it works out. So that's me.
It's kind of like,
No, I think it's the same thing. For me, it's I hate systems and the tech side. I don't want anything to do with it. I just want to do my thing, which is marketing and client service, like being the face for the clients and like kind of building those relationships and stuff like that. So that's why actually like we work well together, because if he could be behind the computer doing the tech and the trainings and all that stuff, he would. And I'm more of like the gotta talk to people. I need to be around people like every day, all day. So I think for me, it's the learning the systems and then figuring out the tech part, right? Like, so that what works for us, that we can roll it out to the team. Like, we've changed it maybe 2 or 3 times already. And so that's kind of like that, finding something that works and works well, and that we're actually using it to its ability and not just half-assing it, because it's a lot of money for these systems. And like, if we're not using all the bells and whistles, we're really not doing ourselves a service. And then it's the same thing, it's the building and production. Like, my production suffered like first quarter because I was trying to build so much and making the marketing and like building the brand and all that kind of stuff. I was more focused on the partnerships and the brand association and like all the other stuff that we're doing and creating for the plug and play templates. And I was like, oh, bro, like my numbers are down, but like I'm supporting in other ways or like handing out more, like we're working things together. And it's just kind of figuring out the technology side, like what's going to take us to the next level, being consistent with that, and like finding that balance of production and building is probably, and then mine is just like balance. Like I'm a workaholic. I would work all day, every day, and I like it. My family doesn't. My family doesn't like it as much. So yeah. So
She's such a New Yorker.
yeah.
I love her.
So I think that's like probably our big thing, and just figuring out like what works and the patience for the build.
Yes.
Like
That's the
he
hardest
was
part.
like, this should be done. Like, we're still
Realtors
hot
have so
mess.
much patience. I'm
Yeah.
surprised we don't have any.
It's crazy, the instant gratification, staring and getting out of head, like this takes time. Like, you're going to fail, you're going to take 2 steps back, and then another 2 steps back, and then maybe 1 forward. Like, it's going to be a seesaw, and it's having the right partner along the way to keep each other intact. Like, he's down and I'm up, I'm down and he's up. Like, it's just constantly going like this, but we're always ending here.
Yeah.
And I think one other thing is defining our roles and what we're going to do, because we have found that there's been some times where we're both doing all of the work across. It's like she's doing something, I'm doing something, and it's like, wait, let's just figure out for listings. Okay, you're gonna do all of these things that I hate doing, and you like doing, and like figuring what those are and dialing it in. That's very challenging.
Yeah,
As leaders do that stuff, because they go to you to say, people come to us with the same question, and you kind of have to clearly define like who's owning what. And
Yeah.
it's messy sometimes. It's
Yeah.
like,
Is
you
it
should know-
understood or is it, you have to like actually diagram?
So we're in the process of like
We're
actually gonna be putting pen to paper and saying, this is, everyone's lane.
I mean, in the past, I think it was clear to define, and I'd say the last couple of months, it's gotten a little blurred again, because we've changed everything, and so we've got constant questions, and so we're like rebuilding out Slack channels and things like that, but ultimately, like, you guys will have that same thing. It's like, we realize people will call me, call Sean, call me.
Yeah.
Yes, sometimes they don't like the answer, sometimes they don't get us.
Like,
They're not making- they're not
So now
making-
they- so now
Mommy,
they-
daddy, right?
So now they call Scott.
Decline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, as leaders, like, we've had that challenge of like, who does what are we good at? Who comes to us for what?
Yeah, that was like the biggest advice. Like, don't be afraid to like get a mentor team like these guys. Like, we begged we have a mutual friend lender actually, and we're like, he left, he was here. But we were like, can you please get us a meeting with them? Do you think they'll talk to us and share all their secrets and tell us how to do this?
Buy us lots of wine.
Yeah.
Keep it flowing, so better get one here.
But that was one of the first things they said was like, figure out like your roles. And so that's super, super important, because otherwise you guys are doing double the work and you're not putting your energy where you're most utilized or the team can most benefit.
I mean, like that example of the ISA, like, I would never do that. She never wants to do that. So if we want to do that, we have to find somebody who excels at that to do it. There's certain things that I excel at, certain things she does. And I always say, like, the list of things that I suck at is really long. We could spend the entire 2 hours talking about things I'm terrible at. But there are a couple little nuggets that I'm good at. And like, 80-20 thing, like, I want to focus on those 20% of things that I rock at. Like,
If you do this all day, you could work all day. That's awesome. If you do 80%, you're drained by like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
And you're
Yeah.
doing $10 an hour work instead of what you should be doing, which is probably $250, $300
Yeah.
an hour work.
Yeah.
Tracy,
We have little problems because we don't have teams, and by design, I did not want them. But I didn't want to play the parent role, and that's on purpose. So it's very direct on who's doing what. The biggest thing there is, for instance, with the geofarm, we've got multiple listings going on right now in our various geofarms. So it's very clear of, are you going to be lead on this one, or am I going to be lead on this one? CC me, so I know what's happening, and our client who we told we're gonna be doing this, or they're gonna be there, but I'm not gonna answer the question. I will wait the extra 2 hours to answer the text message so that you have the opportunity to do that. So just, again, role defining so that everybody knows who's clear and doing what. As far as us, our biggest challenge this year was where we had the 2 producing agents last year, the 2 licensed assistants, and then the marketing assistant. She got a license and is now actively working. So what I find challenging is, oh yeah, I need to bring Maura with me to an appointment. So remembering to bring Maura with me is a challenge, which is bad. And I feel like I'm leaving my kid behind in the car or something, but there's that. And then she gave up the lead and just the system. She has systems in place for all of our marketing stuff, but she's not doing that anymore. And she's realizing that, oh, working leads is tough and that is time consuming. So we're now trying to fill the gap on the marketing director. So where we're having the issue is we have Sharon and Ingrid, who well technologically they can write a contract and they can send out DocuSign and they can do all of that. That's not an issue. But all right, let's dive into this database and knock this out and go ahead and get these things and press go and upload that and download that and get into Canva and design it is not their strength. Okay. Their strength is 45 years of this happening way back when Mr. Smith sold the farm and developed it with T.R. Horton. Yeah, that's her strength. So now we've got people there that we are underutilizing as far as bandwidth goes and time goes. So we're now trying to kind of get that back in. And it's the double-edged sword of it's the spring market. Now is the time we should be practicing all of this stuff because the repetition is there. The problem is, when in the world am I going to slow down long enough to be like, all right, sit down. This is how we order the baseball schedule. This is how you do Canva. I mean, the open house is in 2 days. We got to get this kicked out. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to do it. So got to get over myself and teach them how to do it. And that's our biggest struggle, is re-engaging the folks that have some time to do the things that they're not good at, but are perfectly capable of doing.
You think that maybe that's a systems issue?
It's a training issue.
Yeah.
It's a training issue. I mean, if you think about it, anytime like your iPhone updates and everything moves on you, it's like, you know, I mean, I mean, it kills me. The app was right there and now it's somewhere else. And that's all it is. It's not that they can't. It's just they're not doing it day in and day out. So when the button moves, it's like, okay, that's 15 minutes that I don't ever get back again.
Yeah.
So it's not so much systems as it is they weren't doing it for the longest time. Now they just have to re-engage. It's training. It's all it is. It's just training. And we just need to slow down and do it. I know how to fix it. Just got to do it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's easier just to do it yourself.
Yeah, it's not easy. You've got thriving businesses, right? It's hard to stop. Yeah, exactly. All right. So one more question before I open it up to questions, just because I want you guys to get a little bit of input of how you get listings right now in a world where listings are difficult.
So, I mean, ISA has been helpful the last couple of weeks. We decided, like, we have a company called Easy House Buyers that we kind of turn on and off. It's like a marketing lever. So we started sending, we committed $8,000 a month, about 10,000 pieces of mail to strategic lists every month. And basically we'll buy your house cash. It's a door opener. We go there, we give a cash offer. Sometimes we don't have the right buyers, so we'll bring buyers through the house. We just, like yesterday, I had a off-market open house with 5 groups, basically matching buyers and sellers. So that opens the door, and we'll go there and we'll say, look, we'll buy in cash, which might leave money on the table. We can help you maximize the sale. We can help you sell it as is, and kind of pitch 4 different approach, kind of guarantee sale. That's worked, but honestly, it's worked less than, like, it's generated fewer points than we anticipated this year because the market's been so tight. ISA recently, it's most of our listings have been investor and builder driven, so we'll sell a lot. You know, we just ratified the 2-lot subdivision, so 18 months from now we'll have 2.5 worth of listings there. Our personal flips, our clients flips have been a big in our sphere. That's it. And open houses, we probably do 10 or 15 listings a year off open house leads as well. But sphere and investors have driven most of it. We did like 70.
Well, we did 73 listings last year, and then this year I think we're at, I mean, between under contract and closed, we're at like 12, but we've got like 18 coming soon. So trying to catch up.
It's tight, your lessons are tight.
No.
Well, you're changing the behavior, so we'll catch up.
Oh, we'll catch up.
Well, we pour our like heart, soul, and money into our sphere, really. Like we are actually now trying to step out of that comfort zone of like, okay, we have to spend money to make money, and we have to start. Are we sending mailers? Are we doing something different? We come from the idea of like a value add, where like we rather have somewhat of a buy-in versus a Kohl's quickly, if you will. So like we do. We're trying to work our sphere where like if somebody's moving out of this town, like we'll throw your going away party, we'll want to meet your people. Like if you just moved in, like we're gonna have your housewarming party, we want to meet your people. And then we started doing like some, I guess, somewhat kind of reverse prospecting, and we'll grab some addresses, emails off of the Remind that was no longer available unless you're in VAR apparently. And we started doing this email out like, hey, like, we just sold the highest sold condo. Like we wanted to celebrate, like here's a Starbucks coffee or something like that, or here's something free, like just some kind of value to like start the conversation so it doesn't feel so cold and more of like a personal touch. And then a follow-up with market reports. So we're trying that out. Actually had to call and pay them. Like I think it's so important to like talk to different people. And sometimes it's like, you know what you want to do, but like until you start like having conversations, and we had a conversation, I was like, I want to like spend money on doing handwritten cards. And like, but like, it was like, wait, no, like that's not really who we are. And I think it's really important of like doing like what's natural to you versus trying to do something because it works for somebody else, right? So like we're not the direct mail people. We're just, that hasn't been our thing. That's not to say it won't be our thing down the road, but we're trying to just show value to like within the community in a certain radius, and then within our sphere. And we get referrals for those listings all the time. Like we is this year that we started getting listings off of listings because they saw our sign, or they saw the sales price, or the sellers happened to know the neighbors and things like that.
We had a lot of success actually. I mean, like you said, doing the work together. Like after this, we're gonna go down to Woodbridge for a listing appointment together, because we've actually had a lot of success when we're both there, especially if it's a couple. Like there's sometimes like somebody will gravitate more towards me and somebody gravitates more towards them. But at the end of the day, they're like, yes, them. Right. They're like, they were great. And we had a listing, or we had a buy sell earlier this year who was from a referral from a friend. And it ended up going as swimmingly as possible. Like on the buy side, they didn't way overpay, and on the sell side, they like shot through the wind. So it was like they had an amazing experience. They're doing backflips, and we've got our second referral from them in a month, both of which were listings. So it's just like that works, but trying to replicate that, make sure that keeps happening is difficult. So we're trying to figure out like, okay, we tried something like pepper it with flyers, have one of our agents walk around the neighborhood that we had a listing on, and have like a little QR code, like here, have Starbucks on us. Follow it up with an email, and then follow it up with a market report showing every month what your neighborhood's worth, and see if any of that tracks. And we've seen people opening emails, we don't get a ton of response, but like I think a lot of it is like throwing a bunch at the wall and see what sticks, and then once you find what sticks, replicate.
Yeah,
Start
and
doubling
like,
down.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's where I think kind of we're a little different because we're like newer, so we're trying to figure that stuff out. But it's the consistency of it, and then it's just like what makes sense. Like even like if it doesn't feel right, it's not right for our business, right? Like spending that $4 on herring parts, like it just don't. It's just not, I come from an advertising background, and I know it's like less than 1% on direct mail fees. So for me, I'm like, I'd rather take that $1,000 and dump it into our sphere, have like a little party and work with people and talk to people and do it that way. And that's just how it seemed to work for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracey.
Yeah, so like everyone else, sphere is where most of the listings are coming from, and that's just the consistency over and over and over again. And it's the same thing. It's the value add, the package that people signed up for that we're delivering. The other places we're getting it is the circle prospecting around listings, and we're seeing huge success with that in one neighborhood in particular, and another neighborhood a little less so. But I think the biggest thing is once you start seeing success in that, don't get complacent, double down. Like if you're spending $200 to do it, now spend $4. I mean, because it's working and it's there. And we always have the conversation, are we oversaturating it? And the reality is, if you've got the listing, you nail the coming soon, you do the door knocking before the open, you invite the neighbors, they come back through, you finish it, you go under contract, you door knock after that, you re-canvas the neighborhood, we're under contract, can't wait to tell you what it is when it closes. Have any questions in the meantime, call me, send out the letter again, re-door knock after you close. So maybe one listing has like the neighborhood is getting touched 5-6 times and it is converting. I mean, nothing warms my heart more when you send out a postcard and somebody actually takes the time to pick up the phone and say, did you know you spelled that wrong? There's a typo. I was like, oh, you read it. Awesome. So, it's
That was
okay.
intentional.
Get it done. Get it out there. So if you got it, flaunt it and work it, because you only get in this market, you only get 30 days to have an excuse to go talk to total strangers. So we are hitting it hard on the geo farm and listing and circle prospecting, and that's been really good. The
That's
other
prospecting
place,
is the marketing chance, which is good. So they can actually just do marketing and expect the folks. to
Right.
come.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
prospect
The
right there.
prospect, yeah.
right, yeah, but you gotta hit it. And then the other piece to that is social media. So one of my partners just happens to be the former editor of Virginia Magazine. And so she's really good at content. So we doubled down 3 years ago with our social media. And we have got a plan that with Phillips, North Virginia Magazine. And so we do it. And while it's kind of pathetic from a following standpoint, we re-looked at that, because when we realized that the engagement on like thumbs ups and shares and stuff may not be there, what's really interesting is like I was at a cross country meet for my kid this past fall, and the cross country coach from the competing high school comes over and was like, hey, how you doing? I said, congratulations on your business. Your team's doing really well this year as well. And she's like, thanks so much. You guys are really killing it. And I was like, well, I haven't seen you anyway. She's like, oh no, I watch you guys all the time. You guys are really killing it. So we had to reframe social media from being a lead gen from people we don't know, call me. That's not going to happen. It's totally the same thing as a pick up the phone, quarterly phone call to your sphere. It's no different than a save the date, come to my client appreciation event touch. It is a weekly, daily touch that these people, if they happen to be scrolling, oh yeah, Tracey's in real estate. Oh yeah, they're doing
Still
that.
selling
Oh,
homes.
there's another list. She's still selling homes. And it's a constant reminder so that we're top of mind. So this year, because Maura was doing all of that, we did double down and finally hired a company to do not our social media production. We still do all of that ourselves. We pay for the videographer to do the stock videos for, I mean, we had 45% of our social media for all of 22 filmed before December 15th and uploaded and ready to go. So we're really, and that, I mean, that's it. There was not, actually, it was more like 60% with 40% that we needed to do in real time because it was seasonally attached. But all of that was done, and we spend about $2,200 a month right now. And that person, their responsibility is to post individually on each one of our business pages for Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We're just now ramping up Google Docs to be a little bit more. And what I can say is that the online leads are coming, and everything is housed in the library online known as YouTube. So that just increases your SEO on Google. So, I mean, and I'm paying no ads. I don't pay for social media ads. I will die before I pay. They are the biggest waste of time, and the creepiest people call you when you do it. It's so scary. That said, it's organically just happening, and the growth is there. And we're seeing, each month we're getting like each one of us is getting just 10 more people, just 10 more people, and 10 more people. And it's happening. So don't get excited, and nothing gives me more joy than when you see a magnet on the fridge and you get called in for the listing. And one guy literally, I said, so why'd you call? And he was energy over him. He's like, well, I wasn't in the market to move. I got a job transfer, so I pulled your postcard out of the shredder. I was like, awesome, thanks. So again, he read it, but he pulled it out of the shredder. So just be consistent and market the hell out of anything you get, and that's where it's coming from.
Awesome, thank you. I used to love going on listing appointments and see somebody else's magnet on the refrigerator and sign it.
Yeah, that's
I
what
see
yeah.
something in that magazine
Yeah,
selling
I
it.
was like, yep, doesn't matter what your magnet says. All right, so we're gonna open it up. What you guys got?
From from when you started individually to where you are now, how does your GCI look like? And I don't expect it to be like leaps and bounds, but just trying to be realistic.
So for us, this year is, I mean, we kind of went into this year saying, we're probably gonna take a step back. And I believe that's probably.
Yeah, I think, well, we both last year, when we started partnering, we both had our best year last year. So, like, I think, like, my production went up, was it 20%, I want to say, was it 20%? But I made, my income was a lot higher. And then this, as we started building the team, I think we're anticipating like our production to kind of stall out a little bit while we build, but we both had our best year when we partnered together, which was Q2. So I don't know like stats per se, but I think that's like a huge question to ask because some people think that the next step is naturally just to start a team. Like, and you kind of like hit this part in your career, like what do I do next? Doesn't necessarily mean you have to start a team. We did it. Yeah, we just get help, like just get an admin or a show agent. But it's worked for us this past year and hopefully it continues to work.
I think our units are probably going to be down for sure. Like overall, we have a huge buyer pipeline between the team. Thankfully, our sales price has drastically jumped up. Like our average sales price this year is like close to $1 million. So it's been, so it's been nice where it's like that's kind of bailing us out. But it's also like, that old saying of if you chase two rabbits, you don't catch one. And I think that's kind of what you guys were talking about, right? Like trying to build it and we can only put so much on Scott to build it. Like we have to help him. It's kind of like I'm taking the role of helping him with that. So it's like that's definitely pulling away from some stuff. Thankfully, a lot of our projects are outperforming. So it's like that's kind of helping make up on the income level. But I think from a unit standpoint, we're definitely going to be down out there a little bit.
I'm really easy to do this one because it was Ingrid and I's team, and we were basically pretty consistently up until the team started 3 years ago. We were probably right around $350,000 to the two of us, just bumping along as essentially a solo agent. And then this past year, I was at $552,000. 45 cents. No kidding.
She knows her numbers. I like her.
Basically, it was a 40% jump, and it's exactly attributable to number one, the price of homes have gone up. So do not delude yourselves in that. Make sure that you are, adjusting for the percent increase in homes so you understand what you're doing. But then number two, to your point, and this was my aha shower moment when I was just like, I can take on more, and it is okay for me to give anyone a referral fee. You do not have your team yet. And you mentioned Jamie Craddock. She's out in Percival and she's a Redwood agent. She and I know each other, we're both top producing agents. So if I don't feel like going out there, I will call her and be like, I am not driving from Fairfax to Percival. That's not happening. Please close it 25%. She'll say thank you very much. And we're done. And you're done. And then you get a $4,000 check that shows up.
Did you guys hear her? Because that's
Yeah,
really what she just said.
Right. But again, but that's my point. It's really nice just to have $4,000 show up one day when you're so close. And that's the difference. The leads happen, they come from all over. Know your sphere, network like hell. Before you start growing anything, network like hell. I'm not driving to Stafford to show a $350,000 property. It's a beautiful property, and that is normal sales price for a single family home in Stafford. So they are thrilled to get it. There you go. So I called up one of the agents I networked with, got a great buyer, they're totally pre-approved, refer, and get the check later. It's that easy. It really is. Refer out, have good network. It will come back to you in spades. And when you build the team, it frees up your time so you can do more volume, which ultimately makes you more money.
And that worked like
And to go full circle, the team went from roughly 750 to just over $1 million last year in commission.
I mean, I think it's more of where you were before you started the team and
From a GCI.
from like,
So-
you weren't taking that jump and going down the
So we were probably 600 GCI, which just the two of us pretty consistently for the 2 years there. And then, I mean, last 3 years of GCI has been between 2.5 and 2.8 GCI. So, and we're about a 40% profit margin. So when we first started, like our first hire, we were like, oh, we're really proud of ourselves. Like we're 7% net profit. We're crushing it. We're watching people on stage at 10% or 15%. And our coach was like, well, cool, but like you guys are doing everything. So you're doing,
it's relative, right? What's your profit?
all relative.
If your margin's going down, just make sure the team, we're all doing more.
You can be spending 6 figures on
Yeah,
leads,
100%.
right?
Most,
Like,
most big teams are operating between 15 and 30%. As far as like, once you get to scale,
40
that's scary for us. Like, we try to.
I see their P and L and it is no joke. I mean,
I was about
they're
to say
not
liar
bullshitting you.
to him in his ear, like,
No, he's not. I see it. They show it to me.
but also we're still in production, right? So like, yeah.
That's what was my
production.
next question.
Yeah,
How
we're still
many,
in production. Like, I still love real estate. I still love our clients.
you're still in production?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say between the two of us, out of the 150 units we did last year,
60%.
yeah, we did 60.
Not that we're servicing all 90.
But we're
we
generating
them. But obviously we've got splits and.
And and I think for the big one for me is time or money. This is like the thing, I say this anytime I talk to anybody, probably, is time or money. You know, like where's your company, like, what do you want to make? And then like, you only have so many hours a day. And so like, for me, it's always about time savings. It's always about, you know, to your point, like that person, whether it's personals, you know, wherever, it's like, I don't really want to leave Albany and South Riding for the most part. Like, that's where I live, like, that's where I want to be. And, you know, and yeah, and I know it too. And that like what we've done, like part of the other part of our team is we hire geographically. So we have somebody in Woodbridge, we have somebody in Winchester, we have somebody, and we encourage the team to use each other as showing agents. It's like, hey, you don't have to give up your client and you know, like, work the deal. Just have Mike do all your showings in Winchester. You know, like, you can do it. I did it last year. I mean, the one problem that happens then is that now you freak yourself up to do so much more business that you're on the phone constantly, you know, negotiating contracts, answering questions, firefighting, but you're not out driving. So what do you want to do?
Look at your expenses. They should be
Yeah.
between 25 and 30%. And that, I mean, all in, cap,
Expenses or profit?
expenses
Yeah.
should be between 25 to 30%. I mean, that includes your cap, your dues, everything, marketing budget, the whole nine. You should not be spending more than 30%. It's safely. You guys are like huge, but but I think that that's a safe place to be. And there's going to be years where it's going to be more. There's going to be years where it's less. And but just make sure it's there. And we looked at our direct mail campaigns in the geo farms, circle prospecting. We spent $7,000 as a team, and it produced 5 listings. I mean, it more than paid for itself. So we were like, all right, let's be a little bit more aggressive with that when it's appropriate.
I think that that's the problem with expenses though, is that people aren't looking at, is the expense bringing a return and what is the return that it's bringing, right? They're just spending it because it feels good to do the shirt with the baseball team with your name on the back, or, you know, the mailers that you're sending out every month that you have no clue whether or not you're actually getting anything off of it. So if you don't track it, shame on you.
At the same time, you can't cut it off after 30 days.
Right.
No,
right.
you gotta let it happen.
And then before you do it, determine how long you're going to give it. Like,
Is that 6
We did-
months,
right,
a
We
year,
did
or
2
whatever?
years on the geo farm. We did
Yeah.
2 years on the geo farm. And last year, when it was all said and done, which again, we had more volume, we had more things. And when I say volume, I'm not talking 20 listings. I'm talking there were 2 listings that we pounded the pavement for, and then turned around and got the 3rd listing. So all in, it was $7,000 on 3 listings that we then turned around and got another 5 out of. So I mean, it's just look at it, analyze it. Here's the other thing, and nobody mentioned this, but I think it's super important. You need to be meeting regularly with your team. Like, our team has a standing Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Everybody, all hands on deck. We had to like rein in the old people, Sharon and Ingrid say, because they get super distracted with it, and you got to rein everybody in and focus. What is this? What is this? Hey guys, we're thinking about doing this expense. How do you feel about this? I mean, it doesn't need to be a long meeting. It can be 45 minutes, you know, but we must be meeting and analyzing so that everybody's clear and on the same page. Because as you know, real estate changes on a dime. You
Are you
just have to
doing
be
it in
able to do it.
person, or are you doing like the virtual? I know if you have teams geographically spread out, are you?
We have a standing Monday morning, and then twice a month on Wednesdays we do in person.
Yeah, we do Tuesday, 11 to 12, team meeting in person. We were virtual for a year and a half, went back to in person months ago. We use scripts 9 to 9:30 via Zoom. We were doing scripts 3 to 4 days a week during COVID just to stay in touch, maybe 45 to 9. And we do a week before and one. So we're getting at least 2 in-person meetings and then a 3rd or 4th virtual.
And we talk to each other 5 times a day. And it's
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
constant.
constant communication.
So are you guys are big on playbooks? Like, how long did it take you guys to build the playbooks? Or anywhere from like a new agent coming in, you know.
Dude, we're calling an audible every time.
Hot route. Yes, because I'm hearing that's
We just
the
brought
big
in
thing.
OC.
When I went down to family reunion, that was just one of the big things I happened to run. They like creating playbooks now, like that's starting the team to help you as you go on. So have you guys have it in place now, or you working on it?
When you say playbook, what do you mean by
Like, since playbooks is meaning if a
SOP.
agent come on hire, they show you what you have to do for lead generation, or what does a team schedule look like, what does closing look like? You have playbooks for every position on your team.
Feel like if somebody stepped down in the role.
We don't have it documented. So
Okay.
like that's something that we're working on this year where everything's gonna be documented. It's gonna be like a legit tangible playbook. We have it in our head so we can pass it on, but that's
Yeah.
not scalable.
See, that's what they
So-
said, you have it in your head, and
Yeah.
it's like you always gotta recreate that.
Exactly.
We're excited.
We did that, we actually did 6 and 7 years ago. We haven't redone it since.
Wow.
And so it's like,
We're in a way different spot.
like, yeah, I mean, technology's changed, the market's changed, everything's changed. So what we did 5 years ago worked, but we realized last year, it works, but it's all.
We have one for marketing.
Yeah, I mean, we're building it out, and what we found especially, and it would be true for anybody, once you've done a certain amount of transactions, like you inherently know, like what you need to do. But then trying to get that out of your head and into a scalable system is difficult. I mean, and we all the time, like we have certain workflows that we have where it's like basically checklists and all this sort of thing. And it's building it out in order of like, do this, then this, then this, then this, like something stupid, like if you're setting up listing alerts and then they go under contract, like stop the alert. You know, I know to do that, but everybody else doesn't. So sometimes, you know, they'll be like, you have to put that check mark in, like turn off their listing alert, make sure you turn it off. And anytime something pops up, then it's just like, I just jump in, I'm like, add it, add it. And, you know, it takes
Yeah.
time. It takes, I don't know if it's ever gonna be done.
Next
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
yeah, adapt.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, we had, like, that was our pain point where, like, we were building and bringing on, and we were like, if we could go back personally for us, because of how our brain works, like, we probably would have built first and then brought on. But what we do is, like, this market, you have to constantly adapt, right? So, like, we have, our system is Brevity, we have flow plans for every kind of lead you could think of in there. And then to John's point, as we see, like, oh, shit, that worked.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't, oh, like, that's not in there, like, let's go and add it. So, but for our agents, like, they just see what pops up for them to do. We're the ones on the back end adding and removing.
And I do think too, like when you're building out, like what you guys were saying, I think it's big to like just do it with videos, right? You can, I mean, that right there,
Yes.
instead of typing stuff now, like we're transitioning everything to videos and we're gonna just like, you shoot a video once, you can play it 10,000 times. And it's like, you update the video, shoot it again. But, you know, I think it's a lot more, way more efficient.
Yeah, we've had template emails, but like we realize with template emails, so congratulations, you're on our contracts 5 paragraphs long. Who's really reading to like that 4th and 5th paragraphs? Those questions still come up. You could do that in a 40-second video, and that person, the client, could watch it 5 times, 10 times. We're personalizing that from the agent, so it's coming from the individual agent.
We kind of go by the rules on, like, we do videos for the training for our agents, like, because we were getting the same question all the time, and so we were, our owner of our brokerage is like, if you have to do it twice, you make it a template. And so, like, we have an email template for our lender intro, for our insurance intro, like, so I never have to rewrite that email again, and nor does any of our agents. And then when, like, how do I make a loop? Like, here's the video, like, we have a section in our system where it's just all training videos. So, but we're doing it as we go, but we have like the basis.
And to bring it way down to like, I have 1 agent or 2 agents, Google Drive is your friend. It's free. It has a spreadsheet, build it. So do your business plan, put in your business plan. What does it look like? I mean, this is not training your other agents. This is just, what is everybody doing? What is the expectation? What is your plan for the year? So what is your whole business plan? What are the pillars that you're going to be using? How are you going to be maximizing them, touching them? Put that down and break it down. If you're doing your client event, if it's going to be happening on September 1, when do you know, when do you do your sign up? When do you set the save date? When do you design? When do you book the venue? And put that in your spreadsheet in a month and a year calendar so you understand what you're doing, so that there's always a reference point. So when you are meeting weekly, you can say, okay, this month we need to do X, Y, and Z, who's on point for this. And that's that whole section. And then you can get down and you can drill down to the nitty gritty. If you're doing social media content, again, what is your content calendar? When are you sending it out? What are you sending it out? Who is sending it out? What type of media is it? Is it a video? Is it written? Is it an article? Is it a photo? You know, what are you doing? And that can all be done with a spreadsheet. It is free. You don't have to have expensive systems where you've already got an infrastructure in place. You can use that. And then because it's a shared drive, again, there's 3 of us that use this. The other 2 folks aren't on board yet. They're on board, but they don't want to be. They don't want to be. But the reality is that from a note on my phone today, I can be like, okay, this is what's left to do for the client event in September, and it's April. And I know, and if that is done, like we are done before Thanksgiving. Our entire year is finished, planned out, ready to go. You can always change it. You can always change it. And to your point, if something does change, put it in another row, add a line item, and then go from there. You can always delete it. You can always hide it.
Yeah, don't get paralyzed by perfection.
Yes, just jump.
So that another question. Screen-o-matic is also a great resource for recording trainings live. It's like $20 a year. And you get Screen-o-matic. It's kind of like YouTube, but you can record your screen and categorize it. So we like house training. It's not perfect. We house trainings in there how to do stuff. So if you're training like a top person, it's good.
Loom is another one.
We all hear about how you're getting clients. How are you keeping the clients? What are you doing different? What's working?
Fire your sellers.
So, yeah, like, I mean, how about the client experience? Are you guys doing anything different there?
I mean,
That you're willing to share?
I would say, I mean, honestly, I feel like what we do is obviously with a lot of it being our sphere, like we just live life with them. So we're like constantly checking in, hitting happy hours, doing whatever, that type of stuff. We've started kind of ramping up. Like now we're sending on an annual basis of like, hey, you just bought your home. This is the 4th year you're in your home. They're getting a dozen nothing but tanks delivered to themselves. I'm shooting a video that day saying, yeah, you've been in your house for 5 years now. Exactly. Yeah. So I like sending that out, like just trying to stay in front of them and touch them that way. But I would say
That's after the fact. What are you doing during the
Current.
transaction?
So I mean, for listings right now, our biggest thing I would say is like sellers are unrealistic on pricing sometimes. Like you're saying your neighbor got $1,050,000, so I want $1 million. You're seeing that all day. So I think for the listing side, it's convincing clients to still prep their home and price it appropriately. Don't push the price, right? So then I think a lot of sellers are getting somewhat unrealistic on what the market will bear. The market will take you. Like Sean, I love saying this, like you can never underprice a home, you can overprice your home. So we're working really, really hard to set that expectation to get the list price where we're going to get traffic. So we're consistently selling listings 100 to 250,000 over our list price. And some clients are like, well, your job's easy if you just underprice houses, right? But it's like, well, what's more important, your list price or your close price?
Right.
So that's our biggest challenge. We have some clients right now that push the price to what the market is saying is too much. They're not selling. So preparation, coaching, planning, showing them the market, inventory absorption rate, how do you maximize the sale of your home? Buyer side, I mean, you want to take that one? We're trying to do things different. right?
Wait, I'm gonna jump in for a second. You guys should have all wrote that script down. What's more important, your list price or your sales price? You should be using that.
Your starting price.
And we call our price exactly. And like we've changed the narrative. It's like the starting price. This is where we're going to start. It's not where we're going to end. So you gotta like ride the market.
We were under attack in the kitchen from that neighbor that we sold her house. She was not happy.
No.
And there's also the fact that it's like, how do you want to sell your house for the most amount possible, or do you want to net the most amount possible? That's the other one I get. Like, we have somebody in our neighborhood, and she'll walk in and be like, we have to put trim on all this stuff. We have to completely repaint your house, even though you just painted it last week. We have to take all your furniture out. Like, they spend so much money, and then of course everybody loves it. It looks like a model home, but they might not have had to spend that $40K to get the same result. Like, that's a big one. I know we're not really answering your question. but-
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't.
On the buyer side, so we're coaching our agents because for the last 5 years, we referred all of our traditional buyers to our buyer agents. Like that's how we were structured. Like I run listings and investors, Sean runs listings. All of our buyers go to you. They go to Jack, they go to Eric. And so just this year we transitioned where we can still run the buyers with the showing agent because we realized fast forward 7, 8 years, those relationships start to go away. They're not as tight, right? But really, you got to do things different. Like what most agents are doing right now is they take a buyer agreement, I promise you the world, and you sit back and wait for a listing to hit the market. A lot of our zip codes, there's literally 4 or 5 days of inventory, so that listing might not hit the market. And then you chase the next new listing and compete with 15 offers till you burn the buyer out. So for us, like going back to prospecting, like pick up the phone and call, circle prospect that neighborhood. We will send out letters to a specific neighborhood. Now we're really excited about the ISA, like, hey, if you're signed up A+ buyer, we'll prospect that neighborhood as well as mail it. Also drive the neighborhood. Like the coming soon guidelines to me are really frustrating because it's made the market tighter. And so we're using our relationships outside of, within the office, but also outside of it. The 20%. We're calling those agents and building coming soon pipelines. Hey, like, what do you have coming? I'll share the same. So like digging up inventory that's not yet on the market is like we're matchmaking off market houses to a buyer. If you're not doing that, you're going to get left
and top tier too, because they are nosy suckers that
Yeah,
are sitting at the bus
they can
stop.
have a camera
and
also.
calling and
Oh,
asking.
and I would say too, we're also. Okay.
No, I feel like a lot of buyers and agents are complacent, like our team included, like we're trying to change that culture. It's like, I take a buyer, I wait for the MLS to provide a house to go show.
Please, something come on the market that work for my people this week.
No, please someone come on the market and I know that agent. Like,
Yeah.
I know that agent or you don't get it.
But I feel like our pipeline's 25.
But I feel like that's the thing too, like, we're also like, we try to get as creative as possible, like, we do a lot of investments, so we can do things a little, we think differently, so it's like, all right, how can we stand out, right? When you put a house on the market, you set a deadline for Monday, I'm gonna give you 2 offers at the same time, I'm gonna give you one, you're on at 8, I'm gonna give you one at 875 right now that expires tonight at 9, or I'm gonna give you one at 8 that escalates up to 860 in $5,000 increments that expires at your deadline. Try to force the seller's hand. We're also doing new escalations, right? People put an escalation addendum. It's not comparing apples to apples because it's all about the net price, right? Well, offer number 2, the competing offer might waive an appraisal or might keep an appraisal or a home inspection. We're going to send our escalation over and say, hey, you know what? Here's an extra addendum. If the competing offer retains the appraisal, instead of us going up 10 grand, we go down 20. If the competing offer keeps the home inspection, instead of going up 10, we go down 10. So like stuff like that. And then your client's like, oh, damn, okay. You're thinking outside the box. I never thought of this. How you're at least making, I'm putting you in the best chance to win and protecting your interest. They're like, all right, I trust you.
It works too, because I left the house and an agent called me and asked me if my clients were going to submit an offer. And guess who got it under contract before I even left the driveway? Remember? I was like, yeah.
No, but yeah, so I mean, anything that tries to stand out.
I think you can't put a price on value. I mean, like, it's, everybody has their own way of doing it, and everybody has different chemistry. Like, somebody may resonate more with John over me and vice versa, but because we're bringing something to the table, like what I felt like throughout the process, like we retain because we educate and we give options based on their goals, not our goals. Like, because somebody may be like, I don't want people coming through my house. I want to sell it fast because I have to get this money elsewhere for whatever reason. It's maybe like, I want the top dollar. Well, our way of scaling that for, or figuring that out, playing out for a seller is based on what their goals are. And then through, through their, the process, like, we're in touch. They get like fun gifts throughout the process from us. We follow up with the, we do our own, but yeah, it's very, very similar. So we
It's
do
hard to
that.
compete with Nigel on the top of mind one.
Mhm.
It's pretty great. I mean, it's for the cost of what they get. And then also like the nice thing too, like with the follow-up, it's like you put somebody on that for a year. And like, there's plenty of people who just reach out when they get it. And then you're like, you got the conversation. And then the people who don't, you go through the list, they haven't reached out. They've had the gift for a week. That gives you an opportunity to reach out, you know, like that sort of thing. That works. I mean, that works.
Every single 4 to 5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody gives me a referral, they'll get on top of mind. So
Yeah.
And then same thing.
that's all I'm doing.
When somebody sends us a referral too, we also have a plan in place where like they're getting something immediately, like we reward that behavior. And there's certain people who are doing that over and over again, to the point where we're like, well, we only planned this out for like 2 or 3 years. You know, like, and then after, if that person, they get it no matter what. They send us a name, like they're getting something. And then when they close, they're getting something nicer, like,
Yeah.
you know, that sort of thing. And then like people are just like, okay, I guess we're gonna keep doing this, you know, that I think
Yeah.
that's.
That's huge. I mean, who doesn't like that? But like, don't
She's the
under,
CEO of this, by the way.
Yeah.
I
But
know.
you're welcome. But don't undervalue like your knowledge and like sharing like your value and like how this market is and this is how it's going to work, because that education process is huge. I can't tell you how many times we retain clients or won a client because nobody explained the process. Like common sense is not so common. Right. So like do you and show your value. And I think like one thing that we do well too is we try and get over that barrier of like making us relatable to those people, right? So like people want to work with people that they like, and that's how do you build that trust, right? You break down that wall. So like not only educating you, so you see I'm working on your behalf, but the tricks of the trade, and here's how we can do it. And if the agent's not like, I'm looking at to see if the listing agent is like does like a ton of work business or it doesn't, because that may change like how I present and like, or if I know them or if I don't know them. And like kind of going outside the box and being creatively, but then also like, oh, like you have kids, how old are they? Oh my gosh, they're pains in the asses too. I totally understand. Like, yeah, I have soccer practice. So like having that relatability is huge to your client, because it makes you real and you can, you know, they feel like we can have a better understanding of where they sit, right? You become more real.
Yes.
So I have a question as to, for each of your teams, so I have a team, but hiring is not my strong suit at all. Like, I've been around hire before, and even though they told me not to hire them, and I still didn't.
We all have.
But, yeah. We've
We've all
all,
not listened
we've
to
all
you.
ignored.
Sheila.
Yeah.
We've all not listened to you.
And we all congratulated this. Yeah, very sorry. But who on your team is the one starting that conversation? Who's ending it? Who's in between? Like, who, you know, do they go through the team? What's the process look like for you guys?
Work in progress.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. I mean, when we started hiring, we met everybody together and we gave them, and we kind of have this like banter that we use. I'm more like the flair piece and he's more like, can we get down to the business? And I'm like, ah, you know, like excited about everything. So I think it's another way like how we've been doing our listing. Like people relate to one of us or both of us and they kind of see because we both bring different things to the table. And the owner of our broker gave us good advice and he said, I was like, how do we know if somebody's gonna be good or we're wasting our time? He's like, you don't. He's like, you have to give everybody a chance. He's like, people that I thought would be killer are not, and people who I was like, oh my gosh, this person doesn't know what they're doing are doing awesome. And if you give somebody the right tools and like the right culture, it may be like the perfect fit for them and they may soar. You may not be the perfect fit, but they go somewhere else and they'll soar, right? It's all about finding and giving the opportunity and kind of figuring it out as you go. I think like the biggest thing is listening to your gut, like because we're kind of like, oh, I don't know, maybe, and not being like cheap on it too. Like we've hired the cheap help, and it's a waste of time. But know that like be okay that you're going to make mistakes, that you're going to hire poorly, and you're going to hire awesome, and then it's like, you know, like keeping those awesome people too. I think for us it's just we figured out and have a conversation between the two of us. He's had interviews lately like where I'm not involved and he gives me the rundown. I'll pick up the phone and I'll call a broker and like, you know this person, like what do you think are they good fit? Or and so I do get other opinions too, but we kind of give for as far as an agent, we give everybody a chance first. And now we're basically doing like a 3 to 5 month, like okay, like are you doing everything or are you kind of just falling flat and then see if it's still a good fit.
I feel like we definitely not done a great job of it. I feel like we are now starting to take Gary's advice serious, like slow to hire, quick to fire, you know, and not to be like cold-blooded or heartless, but it's like when somebody comes on, it's like this is a 30-day trial period for you and us. At the end of or 90 days, at the end of this 90-day, you know, we're gonna know if this is a good fit or not. That's kind of like the hard line that we're starting to draw.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, right? Like we fired tons of people that did work. We fired friends that were in the right role. We fired great people that just didn't have the same work ethic. We've hired great people at different points in life, or just like put them in the wrong seat of the bus plenty of times. So who does it? Like it was always us. We hired the director of Redfin regionally. We hired oversaw like 1,000 people. So like, oh dude, you can do this way better than we did. He hired a bunch of people. Most of them didn't work out. Like because it was a different culture, right? Our culture is completely different. Every single one of them did not work out.
We're being honest. Every single one of them were not on the team.
So also like at one point we had to leave buyer's agent. Like, oh, you're the top buyer agent. You know what to do. You want to be a manager, go interview. Those didn't really work out either. So now we've taken it back on. We've got Scott now who's around. Scott was a headhunter for a couple of years. So then when we get excited, we'll still let him do the hires. And our coach is like, dude, do not cheat the process. Gary says, do not cheat the process. Also, ultimately, now like Scott is starting the process, but it's still end with us. And like we're still going back to career vision, recruit select. Like our coach is kicking our ass this week about like cheating the process. So like the ISA, he had 4 job offers in a week, so we had to rush that process. We had a great interview yesterday that wants to join the team, and like this is only interview 1. We have 3 more rounds, and they're like, well, we have other opportunities. Like, cool, we don't want to hold you back, but this is our process. And so we are still making a final decision. I would say I enjoy that piece more than Sean. Sean does not like it at all. He's too impatient. So like, you know, I don't know, but also like we're nice people, so we will be quick to hire, slow to fire. Historically speaking, it gets you right to sport all the time.
You make somebody a bad guy. I'm like, can you say
It's easy to hire.
You keep them so long. I'm like, cut them, get rid of them. They're killing you.
How do you hire someone? How does that work?
Send an email, hope they don't respond.
But all those
Yeah.
we just said to do it last week, and like, honestly, like, we knew it was the right call. It was a year past due.
Year.
Completely honestly, like, but also like, we're getting a lot of grief from team members right now. They're like solely split. So like, we're doing a happy hour for this because the culture, or like the energy, some people are like, yes, and some people are like really sad because this person's individual personality is more victim mentality. So he's like dragging other people into the drama a little bit. And we know it's what's best for this person as well. It's like to cut ties.
Yeah.
But it's never fun to be the bad guy. So Sean did that one.
I do all of
It's like, I call it all the time. It's over everybody else, right? So some people were actually cool and some people were upset. But also
was
what
really
Gary
good.
tells us is if you hold the
Yeah,
line
and-
to 30,
and
60, 90, it's not personal. This is the job. Either you do it or you don't.
Yeah.
And so if you do that from the beginning, but it's all about setting expectations, going back to a buyer or a seller, setting expectations of what comes next. And if you do that well, which we haven't, we're starting to.
Yeah, we are embracing it now.
It makes it 30, 60, 90, but you have to make it systematic. Instead, it's just all personal.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this person didn't produce, but they were still liked by the team.
And we're big relationship.
Yeah.
Like that's how we build our business, right? So it's like, it's tough, but yeah. But I think that's right. The expectations of like, this is what it is. And it's a trial period for both of us. Like if you choose to leave, that's cool too, right? We might not be the right fit for you.
Yeah, we've had people stuff like out the first week, but this is way too much work. I can sign up for this. That's okay.
We've also let people join our meetings to see if the chemistry is right for them too. And like talk to some people on our team. And like we've had like, well, we talked to this person, let's see, do you need a West Virginia person anyway? Like feel her out, see how you like her. Stuff like that.
I was gonna say, you actually said at one of our first panels that I ever saw you guys at was to not hire friends.
That's all they did for a
I
while.
know.
We
I
stopped.
mean, Sean's father is my, direct
Yeah.
report on the investment side. My best friend, my wife's best friend, were working with us. I mean, obviously Jack agreed with us for 5 years. So like we hired mostly friends for a while. The great thing is we didn't have turnover for a very long time.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also hard to coach and manage your friends to the same expectations that you were strangers.
Which is why the written contract is so huge. My team is nothing but nepotism, nothing but nepotism. My mother-in-law is my direct report, or direct reports to me. Our Laura was her best friend for 15 years before we brought her on. Sharon, we met at the Section 21 baseball game and got together and had a good time, and that was fun. So there was that, and then Lynn is my next door neighbor and our sons are BFFs. So that's my team. And our social media person is Maura's daughter. I mean, so the nepotism is rich, but before anybody started working, it was press hard, 3 copies. These are the expectations, and if people aren't doing it, I mean, there's a reason we're doing well. And I mean, we're not to be all stereotypical, but we're 5 women and there's never been an argument. We are
That's
super
amazing.
there.
Yeah.
for one another. We disagree on some things, but it's ironed out. This is the way it is. I know it's uncomfortable. We'll give and take. There's flex, but that said, it's written and the expectations are there. And so far it's been clear and people lived up to it. And everybody's coming from a place of what more can I do as opposed to you own me, which is that is culture and culture, and that is the expectation. I'm going to give you 100% of what I do. I expect the same for you. And as soon as that balance is off, it's a problem.
You guys all have your LLCs and S corps. Do you guys pay yourself the salary, or do you do distributions? And then the people that you have under you, not the agents per se, but your director of operations per se, is that a salary position? How do you guys set that up for your structures?
So we are just now converting to an S corp, but we're going to start drawing salaries from the team. We have our operations manager she's a salary, and then our director of ops, we guaranteed him a certain net. We're paying him right now as a 1099, giving him like a monthly base, and then bonuses off of other stuff. And if he doesn't hit that net that we guaranteed him, then we'll just cut him a check in December. But he's still
ISAs and fully with bonuses. So we've got
Yeah.
a transaction coordinator, it's variable cost, 1099 cost per employee.
And the reason that we did that though too, partially is we did a lot of tax planning. So for retirement and stuff and 401ks, we're doing a lot of different stuff with our team now than we ever did before. It was just us and the LLC when we had, when the account was above 100 grand, we would cut whatever. We had 200 grand, we each get 50, keep 100 grand in the operating account and then just let it roll. But now we're taking.
On that note, Brandon, I think business, like keep 2 to 3 months reserves in your operating account if you do have a team or you're hiring at all times. Because that's something that Gary teaches us. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about that. So as you're building a business, you've got to keep, so we keep 6 figures in our operating account so that we can make those investments or that higher and not stress about it. And it's not fun when you have to like, other than habits, you got to cut a check to the company to make an investment. It feels
Like tax time. That's what I'm saying.
But even, sometimes you got to fund it because there's cash flow issues. Sometimes it's seasonal, right? Our business is seasonal. So if you keep that free, Gary challenges to get it up to 12 months at one point during COVID. And that's a little excessive. Yeah. Keep a reserve.
So you guys
You
were
had a
just
cash
50/50 and then like you just kept the account before now it's a new salary.
You do some-
Yeah, we're still, we have the LLC for Level Up Homes, and then we both individually have an S corp previous to that. So like we have an operating budget and everything for Level Up Homes, and everything comes in there first, and then we pay out to the separate S corps. And then from there, like Profit First is a book I read. Your bookkeeper,
Great book.
your bookkeeper will hate you, but like, I transfer like crazy. I've got an operating account, which again is flush for like, it just kind of like, it goes down and then it goes back up, and then it goes down, and it goes back up. And then same thing, I have my draw account, which basically, like you said, is my paycheck that goes to my joint account with my wife. And that stays stable, like on the 1st and the 15th, I get paid the same, just like if I'm getting W-2. And again, that just kind of hovers. And like, I'm okay if it hovers. If it takes a dive, then something's wrong. And same thing with the operating budget. If the operating budget all of a sudden takes a dive and there's nothing in it, we screwed up and we're over budget. And we need to reevaluate. But as long as things are kind of floating, like I'm like, that's
We
cool.
pay our team first though. So like our admin started off hourly. Now she's a salary 1099. So she gets paid twice a month. Twice a month. With the base salary. She doesn't want incentivized pay. She's an S on the DISC profile. She wants the security. But like when we get the commission into the account, we then automatically put 20% into operating budget. And then we pay whoever we need to pay, then we pay the credit card, then we pay ourselves. Like, but that comes from that. And then I pay myself a salary every month to my joint account with like my husband. So like it's kind of consistent on like, I base that off of like what I know my expenses are. And that's how I kind of keep myself afloat and accountable. So I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna take 30 grand this month because I'm gonna go do something. Like I kind of have to keep it in check there.
And that was huge. Both of us last year had our accounts. Basically, we could go 10 to 12 months with no commission whatsoever and still survive at the same level, which was fantastic. We're probably more like in the 8-month now, but like still, it's still good. Like, I told this is the best part, is I told my financial planner wife what I was doing, and she's like, I already planned for 6 months of like, we're good. You don't need to keep 12 months of, it's like, you're saving, like, exactly. So she's like, you're an idiot. Why didn't you tell me this? But at the end of the day, for me, it was kind of a personal challenge. Like, can I get that to the point? Can I operate within these means? And it was huge. That book was just like
I
mind
think
blowing.
that's good because the realtor roller coaster is a struggle that a lot of us have. So I think that helps kind of combat that. And then like I just have it in my because I would freak out about money all the time. Like if it went below this number is when I would start like panicking. But as long as I was above it, it really helped me keep that like leveled mindset too. Yeah.
Set 40% aside. So you make 100K for each set 40,000 aside, put 20 of that for retirement, 20 of that for taxes. You can live off the 60, so live off 60%. But for a long time, we gave ourselves small salaries when we first getting going. We're making a couple $100 grand a year. We're living off 60K, 5,000 a month. Of that, you're pushing 40%.